did not get here till this morning. We had just lit the fire and had some breakfast. When Treebeard appeared again, we heard him whooming and calling our names outside. "I have just come around to see how you are faring, my lads," he said, "and to give you some news. Horns have come back. All's well." "Aye, very well indeed," he laughed and slapped his thighs. "No more orcs in Isengard, no more axes. And there will be folk coming up from the south before the day is old, some that you may be glad to see." He had hardly said that when we heard the sound of hoofs on the road. We rushed out before the gates, and I stood and stared, half expecting to see Strider and Gandalf come riding up at the head of an army. But out of the mist there rode a man on an old, tired horse, and he looked a queer, twisted sort of creature himself. There was no one else. When he came out of the mist and suddenly saw all the ruin and wreckage in front of him, he sat and gaped, and his face went almost green. He was so bewildered that he did not seem to notice us at first. When he did, he gave a cry and tried to turn his horse around and ride off. But Treebeard took 3 strides, put out a long arm, and lifted him out of the saddle. His horse bolted in terror, and he groveled on the ground. He said he was Grima, friend and counselor of the king, who had been sent with important messages from Theoden to Saruman. No one else would dare to ride through the open land so full of foul orcs, he said, so I was sent. And I have had a perilous journey, and I am hungry and weary. I fled far north, out of my way, pursued by wolves. I caught the sidelong looks he gave to Treebeard, and I said to myself, "Liar." Treebeard looked at him in his long, slow way for several minutes, till the wretched man was squirming on the floor. Then, at last, he said, "Ha, I was expecting you, Master Wormtongue." The man started at that name. "Gandalf got here first, so I know as much about you as I need. And I know what to do with you. Put all the rats in one trap," said Gandalf, "and I will. I am the master of Isengard now, but Saruman is locked in his tower. And you can go there and give him all the messages that you can think of." Let me go, said Wormtongue. "I know the way." "You knew the way, I don't doubt," said Treebeard, "but things have changed here a little. Go and see." He let Wormtongue go, and he limped off through the arch, with us close behind, until he came inside the ring and could see all the floods that lay between him and Arthanc. Then he turned to us. "Let me go away," he whined. "Let me go away. My messages are useless now." "They are, indeed," said Treebeard. "But you have only 2 choices. To stay with me until Gandalf and your master arrive, or to cross the water. Which will you have?" The man shivered at the mention of his master, and put a foot into the water, but he drew back. "I cannot swim," he said. "The water is not deep," said Treebeard. "It is dirty, but that will not harm you, Master Wormtongue. In you go now." With that, the wretch floundered off into the flood. It rose up nearly to his neck before he got too far away for me to see him. The last I saw him was clinging to some old barrel or a piece of wood, but Treebeard waded after him and watched his progress. "Well, he has gone in," he said when he returned. "I saw him crawling up the steps like a draggled rat. There is someone in the tower still. A hand came out and pulled him in. So there he is, and I hope the welcome is to his liking. And now, now I must go and wash myself clean of the slime. I'll be away up on the north side if anyone wants to see me. There's no clean water down here, fit for an ent to drink, or to bathe in. So I will ask you two lads to keep a watch at the gate for the folk that are coming. There'll be the Lord of the Fields of Rohan. Mark you, you must welcome him as well as you know how. His men have fought a great fight with the orcs. Maybe you know the right fashion of men's words for such a lord better than Ents. There have been many lords in the green fields in my time, and I've never learned their speech or their names. They will be wanting man food, and you know all about that, I guess. So find what you think is fit for a king to eat, if you can. And that is the end of the story. Though I should like to know who this Wormtongue is. Was he really the king's counselor? He was, said Aragorn, and also Saruman's spy and servant in Rohan. Fate has not been kinder to him than he deserves. The sight of the ruin of all that he thought so strong and magnificent must have been punishment enough. But I fear that worse waits for him. Yes, I don't suppose Treebeard sent him to Orthanc out of kindness, said Merry. He seemed rather grimly delighted with the business, and was laughing to himself when he went to get his bath and drink. We spent a busy time after that, searching the flotsam and rummaging about. We found 2 or 3 storerooms in different places nearby, above the flooded level. But Treebeard sent some Ents down, and they carried off a great deal of the stuff. We want man food for 25, the Ents said. So you can see that somebody had counted your company carefully before you arrived. You 3 were evidently meant to go with the great people, but you would not have fared any better. We kept as good as we sent, I promise you. Better, because we sent no drink. What about drink? I said to the Ents. There is water of Isen, they said, and that is good enough for Ents and men. But I hope that the Ents may have found time to brew some of their draughts from the mountain springs, and we shall see Gandalf's beard curling when he returns. After the Ents had gone, we felt tired and hungry, but we did not grumble. Our labors had been well rewarded. It was through our search for man food that Pippin discovered the prize of all the flotsam, those hornblower barrels. Pipeweed is better than food, said Pippin. That is how the situation arose. We understand it all perfectly now, said Gimli. All except one thing, said Aragorn. Leaf from the South Farthing in Isengard. The more I consider it, the more curious I find it. I have never been in Isengard, but I have journeyed in this land, and I know well the empty countries that lie between Rohan and the Shire. Neither goods nor folk have passed that way for many a long year, not openly. Saruman had secret dealings with someone in the Shire, I guess. Wormtongues may be found in other houses than King Theoden's. Was there a date on the barrels? Yes, said Pippin. Yes, it was the 1417 crop. That is, last year's. No, the year before, of course. Now, a good year. Well, whatever evil was afoot is over now, I hope, or else it is beyond our reach at present, said Aragorn. Yet I think I shall mention it to Gandalf, small matter though it may seem among his great affairs. I wonder what he is doing, said Merry. The afternoon is getting on. Let us go and look around. You can enter Isengard now at any rate, Strider, if you want to, but it is not a very cheerful sight. In just a few moments, ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back with Chapter 10, The Voice of Saruman. We'll be right back in just a moment. I do believe that I need some more tea. Thank you. Live again, everyone. This is our ongoing Hobbit and Lord of the Rings readathon that we started on Christmas morning. We are watching Shop XSN, which is the online geek shopping network that has all the coolest stuff. And it's very exciting to be here. We are about to hear the voice of Saruman. This is one of my very favorite moments in all of the movies. It's one of my very favorite moments in all of the movies. Because, of course, Christopher Lee has all the best dialogue. It's fantastic, isn't it? Let's go to theonering.net/live. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Oh, my poor voice. Here we go. Chapter 10. The Two Towers, Book 3, Chapter 10. The Voice of Saruman. They passed through the ruined tunnel and stood upon a heap of stones, gazing at the dark rock of Orthanc and its many windows, a menace still in the desolation that lay all about it. The waters had now nearly all subsided. Here and there gloomy pools remained, covered with scum and wreckage, but most of the wide circle was bare again, a wilderness of slime and tumbled rock, pitted with blackened holes and dotted with posts and pillars, leaning drunkenly this way and that. At the rim of the shattered bowl, there lay vast mounds and slopes, like the shingles cast up by a great storm, and beyond them the green and tangled valley ran up into the long ravine between the dark arms of the mountains. Across the waste, they saw riders picking their way. They were coming from the north side, and already they were drawing near to Orthanc. "There is Gandalf, and Theoden and his men," said Legolas. "Let us go and meet them." "Walk warily," said Merry. "There are loose slabs that may tilt up and throw you down into a pit if you don't take care." They followed what was left of the road from the gates to Orthanc, going slowly, for the flagstones were cracked and slimed. The riders, seeing them approach, halted under the shadow of the rock and waited for them. Gandalf rode forward to meet them. "Well, Treebeard and I have had some interesting discussions and made a few plans," he said. "And we have all had some much-needed rest. Now we must be going on again. I hope you companions have rested too, and refreshed yourselves?" "We have," said Merry, "but our discussions began and ended in smoke." "Ha ha ha ha!" "But our discussions began and ended in smoke. Still, we feel less ill-disposed towards Saruman than we did." "Do you indeed?" said Gandalf. "Well, I do not. I have now a last task to do before I go. I must pay Saruman a farewell visit. Dangerous and probably useless, but it must be done. Those of you who wish may come with me, but beware and do not jest. This is not the time for it." "I will come," said Gimli. "I wish to see him and learn if he really looks like you." "And how will you learn that, Master Dwarf?" said Gandalf. "Saruman could look like me in your eyes if it suited his purpose with you. And are you yet wise enough to detect all his counterfeits?" "Well, we shall see, perhaps. He may be shy of showing himself before many different eyes together, but I have ordered all the Ents to remove themselves from sight. So perhaps we shall persuade him to come out." "What's the danger?" asked Pippin. "Will he shoot at us?" And sunlight was still shining in the sky, but long shadows reached over Isengard, gray ruins falling into darkness. Treebeard stood alone there now, like the distant stump of an old tree. The hobbits thought of their first meeting upon the sunny ledge far away on the borders of Fangorn. They came to the pillar of the White Hand. The pillar was still standing, but the graven hand had been thrown down and broken into small pieces. Right in the middle of the road, the long forefinger lay, white in the dusk, its red nail darkening to black. "The Ents pay attention to every detail," said Gandalf. They rode on, and evening deepened in the valley. "Are we riding far tonight, Gandalf?" asked Merry after a while. "I don't know how you feel with small ragtag dangling behind you, but the ragtag is tired and will be glad to stop dangling and lie down." "So you heard that," said Gandalf. "Don't let it rankle. Now be thankful no longer words were aimed at you. He had his eyes on you. If it is any comfort to your pride, I should say that, at the moment, you and Pippin are more in his thoughts than all the rest of us. Who you are, how you came there and why, what you know, whether you were captured, and if so, how you escaped when all the orcs perished. It is with those little riddles that the great mind of Saruman is troubled. A sneer from him, Meriadoc, is a compliment, if you feel honored by his concern." "Thank you," said Merry, "but it is a greater honor to dangle at your tail, Gandalf. For one thing, in that position, one has a chance of putting a question a second time. Are we riding far tonight?" Gandalf laughed. "Well, a most unquenchable hobbit. All wizards should have a hobbit or two in their care, to teach them the meaning of the word, and to correct them. I beg your pardon, but I have given thought even to these simple matters. We will ride for a few hours gently, until we come to the end of the valley. Tomorrow we must ride faster. When we came, we meant to go straight from Isengard back to the king's house at Edoras, over the plains, a ride of some days. But we have taken thought and changed the plan. The messengers have gone ahead to Helm's Deep to warn them that the king is returning tomorrow. He will ride from there with many men to Dunharrow by paths among the hills. From now on, no more than 2 or 3 together are to go openly over the land by day or night, when it can be avoided. Nothing or a double helping is your way, said Merry. I'm afraid I was not looking beyond tonight's bed. Where and what are Helm's Deep and all the rest of it? I do not know anything about this country. Then you'd best learn something, if you wish to understand what is happening, but not just now and not from me. I have too many pressing things to think about. All right, I'll tackle Strider by the campfire. He's less testy. But why all this secrecy? And I thought we'd won the battle. Yes, we have won, but only the first victory. And that in itself increases our danger. There are some link between Isengard and... There was some link between Isengard and Mordor, which I have not yet fathomed. How they exchanged news I am not sure, but they did so. The Eye of Barad-dûr will be looking impatiently towards the Wizard's Vale, I think, and towards Rohan. The less it sees, the better. The road passed slowly, winding down the valley. Now further and now nearer, the Isen flowed in its stony bed. Night came down from the mountains. All the mists were gone. A chill wind blew. The moon, now waxing round, filled the eastern sky with a pale, cold sheen. The shoulders of the mountain to their right sloped down to bare hills. The wide plains opened gray before them. At last they halted. Then they turned aside, leaving the highway and taking to the sweet upland turf again. Going westward a mile or so, they came to a dale. It opened southward, leaning back into the slope of round Dal Baran, the last hill of the northern ranges, green-footed, crowned with heather. The sides of the glen were shaggy with last year's bracken, among which the tight-curled fronds of spring were just thrusting through the sweet, scented earth. Thorn bushes grew thick upon the low banks, and under them they made their camp 2 hours or so before the middle of the night. They lit a fire in a hollow, down among the roots of a spreading hawthorn, tall as a tree, writhen with age, but hale in every limb. Buds were swelling at each twig's tip. Guards were set, 2 at a watch. The rest, after they had supped, wrapped themselves in a cloak and a blanket and slept. The hobbits lay in a corner by themselves upon a pile of old bracken. Merry was sleepy, but Pippin now seemed curiously restless. The bracken cracked and rustled as he twisted and turned. "What's the matter?" asked Merry. "Are you lying on an ant-hill?" "No," said Pippin, "but I'm not comfortable. I wonder how long it is since I slept in a bed." Merry yawned. "Work it out on your fingers," he said. "But you must know how long it is since we left Lorien." "Oh, that, said Pippin. "I mean a real bed in a bedroom." "Well, Rivendell, then," said Merry. "But I could sleep anywhere tonight." "You had the luck, Merry," said Pippin softly, after a long pause. "You were riding with Gandalf." "Well, what of it? Did you get any news, any information out of him?" "Yes, a good deal, more than usual." "But you heard it all, or most of it. You were close by, and we were talking no secrets. But you can go with him tomorrow if you think you can get more out of him, and if he'll have you." "Can I? Oh, good, good, but he's close, isn't he? Not changed at all?" "Oh, yes, he is," said Merry, waking up a little, and beginning to wonder what was bothering his companion. "He has grown, or something. He can be both kinder and more alarming, merrier and more solemn than before, I think. He has changed, but we have not had a chance to see how much yet. But think of the last part of the business, that business with Saruman. Remember, Saruman was once Gandalf's superior, head of the council, whatever that may be exactly. He was Saruman the White. Gandalf is the White now. Saruman came when he was told, and his rod was taken, and then he was just told to go, and he went. Well, if Gandalf has changed at all, then he's closer than ever. That's all," Pippin argued. That glass ball now, he seemed mighty pleased with it. He knows or guesses something about it. But does he tell us what? No, not a word. Yet I picked it up, and I saved it from rolling into a pool. Here, I'll take that, my lad. That's all. I wonder what it is. It felt so very heavy. Pippin's voice fell very low, as if he was talking to himself. "Hello," said Merry. "So that's what is bothering you. Now, Pippin, my lad, don't forget Gildor's saying, the one Sam used to quote. 'Do not meddle in the affairs of wizards, for they are subtle and quick to anger.' But Our whole life for months has been one long meddling in the affairs of wizards, said Pippin. I should like a bit of information as well as danger. I should like a look at that ball. Go to sleep, said Mary. You'll get information enough, sooner or later. My dear Pippin, no toque ever beat a brandy-buck for inquisitiveness. But is this the time, I ask you? All right, all right. What's the harm in my telling you what I should like? I'll look at that stone. I know I can't have it, with old Gandalf sitting on it like a hen on an egg. But it doesn't help much to get no more from you than you can't have it, so go to sleep. Well, what else could I say? Said Mary. I'm sorry, Pippin, but you really must wait till the morning. I'll be as curious as you like after breakfast, and I'll help in any way I can at wizard wheedling. But I can't keep awake any longer. If I yawn any more, I shall split at the ears. Good night. Pippin said no more. He lay still now, but sleep remained far away, and it was not encouraged by the sound of Mary breathing softly, asleep in a few minutes after saying good night. The thought of the dark globe seemed to grow stronger as all grew quiet. Pippin felt again its weight in his hands, and saw again the mysterious red depths into which he had looked for a moment. He tossed and turned, and tried to think of something else. At last, he could stand it no longer. He got up and looked round. It was chilly, and he wrapped his cloak about him. The moon was shining cold and white down into the dell, and the shadows of the bushes were black. All about lay sleeping shapes. The two guards were not in view. They were up on the hill, perhaps, or hidden in the bracken. Driven by some impulse that he did not understand, Pippin walked softly to where Gandalf lay. He looked down at him. The wizard seemed to sleep, but with lids not fully closed. There was a glitter of eyes under his long lashes. Pippin stepped back hastily, but Gandalf made no sign, and drawn forward once more, half against his will, the hobbit crept up again from behind the wizard's head. He was rolled in a blanket, with his cloak spread over the top. And close beside him, between his right side and his bent arm, there was a hummock, something round and wrapped in a dark cloth. His hand seemed only just to have slipped off it to the ground. Hardly breathing, Pippin crept nearer, foot by foot. At last he knelt down. Then he put his hands out stealthily and slowly lifted the lump up. It did not seem quite so heavy as he had expected. Only some bundle of oddments, perhaps, after all, he thought with a strange sense of relief. But he did not put the bundle down again. He stood for a moment clasping it. Then an idea came into his mind. He tiptoed away, found a large stone, and came back. Quickly now, he drew off the cloth, wrapped the stone in it, and kneeling down, laid it back by the wizard's hand. Then at last he looked at the thing that he had uncovered. There it was, a smooth globe of crystal, now dark and dead, lying bare before his knees. Pippin lifted it, covered it hurriedly in his own cloak, and half turned to go back to his bed. At that moment Gandalf moved in his sleep and muttered some words. They seemed to be in a strange tongue. His hand groped out and clasped the wrapped stone. Then he sighed and did not move again. You idiotic fool, Pippin muttered to himself. You're going to get yourself into frightful trouble. Put it back, quick. But he found now that his knees quaked, and he did not dare to go near enough to the wizard to reach the bundle. I'll never get it back now without waking him, he thought. But not till I'm a bit calmer, so I may as well have a look first. Not just here, though. He stole away and sat down on a green hillock not far from his bed. The moon looked in over the edge of the dell. Pippin sat with his knees drawn up and the ball between them. He bent low over it, looking like a greedy child stooping over a bowl of food in a corner away from others. He drew his cloak aside and gazed at it. The air seemed still and tense about him. At first, the globe was dark, black as jet, with the moonlight gleaming on its surface. Then there came a faint glow and a stir in the heart of it, and it held his eyes, so that now he could not look away. Soon all the inside seemed on fire. The ball was spinning, or the lights within were revolving. Suddenly, the lights went out. He gave a gasp and struggled, but he remained bent, clasping the ball with both hands. Closer and closer he bent, and then became rigid. His lips moved soundlessly for a while. Then he let a strangled cry. Then, with a strangled cry, he fell back and lay still. The cry was piercing. The guards leapt down from the banks. All the camp was soon astir. "So this is the thief," said Gandalf. Hastily he cast his cloak over the globe where it lay. "But you, Pippin, this is a grievous turn to things." He knelt by Pippin's body. The hobbit was lying on his back, rigid, with unseeing eyes, staring up at the sky. "The devilry! What mischief has he done to himself and to all of us?" The wizard's face was drawn and haggard. He took Pippin's hand and bent over his face, listening for his breath. Then he laid his hands on his brow. The hobbit shuddered. His eyes closed. He cried out and sat up, staring in bewilderment at all the faces around him, pale in the moonlight. "It is not for you, Saruman," he cried in a shrill and toneless voice, shrinking away from Gandalf. "I will send for it at once. Do you understand? Say just that." Then he struggled to get up and escape, but Gandalf held him gently and firmly. "Peregrine Took," he said, "come back." The hobbit relaxed and fell back, clinging to the wizard's hand. "Gandalf," he cried, "Gandalf, forgive me." "Forgive you?" said the wizard. "Tell me first what you have done." I took the ball and looked at it," stammered Pippin. "And I saw things that frightened me, and I wanted to go away, but I couldn't. And then he came and questioned me, and he looked at me, and that is all I remember." "That won't do," said Gandalf sternly. "What did you see, and what did you say?" Pippin shut his eyes and shivered, and said nothing. They all stared at him in silence, except Merry, who turned away. But Gandalf's face was still hard. "Speak!" he said. In a low, hesitating voice, Pippin began again, and slowly his words grew clearer and stronger. "I saw a dark sky, under battlements," he said, "and tiny stars. It seemed very far away, and long ago, yet hard and clear. Then the stars went in and out. They were cut off by things with wings. Very big, I think, really, but in the glass they looked like bats wheeling around the tower. I thought there were 9 of them. One began to fly straight towards me, getting bigger and bigger. It had a horrible— No, I can't say. I tried to get away, because I thought it would fly out, but when it had covered all the globe, it disappeared. Then he came. He did not speak so that I could hear words. He just looked and I understood. So you have come back. Why have you neglected to report for so long? I did not answer. He said, Who are you? I still did not answer, but it hurt me horribly, and he pressed me, so I said, A hobbit. Then suddenly he seemed to see me, and he laughed at me. It was cruel. It was like being stabbed with knives. I struggled, but he said, Wait a moment. We shall meet again soon. Tell Saruman that this dainty is not for him. I will send for it at once. Do you understand? Say just that. Then he gloated over me. I felt I was falling to pieces. No, I can't say any more. I don't remember anything else. Look at me, said Gandalf. Pippin looked up straight into his eyes. The wizard held his gaze for a moment in silence. Then his face grew gentler, and the shadow of a smile appeared. He laid his hand softly on Pippin's head. All right, he said, say no more. You have taken no harm. There is no lie in your eyes, as I feared, but he did not speak long with you. A fool, but an honest fool. You remain Peregrine Took. Wiser ones might have done worse in such a pass. But mark this. You have been saved, and all your friends too, mainly by good fortune, it is called. You cannot count on it a second time. If he had questioned you then and there, almost certainly you would have told all that you know, to the ruin of us all. But he was too eager. He did not want information only. He wanted you. Quickly, so that he could deal with you in the Dark Tower. Slowly. Don't shudder. If you meddle in the affairs of wizards, you must be prepared to think of such things. But come, I will forgive you. Be comforted. Things have not turned out as evilly as they might. He lifted Pippin gently and carried him back to his bed. Merry followed and sat down beside him. Lie here and rest, if you can. Pippin, said Gandalf, trust me. If you feel an itch in your palms again, tell me of it. Such things can be cured, but anyway, my dear hobbit, don't put a lump of rock under my elbow again. Now, I will leave you two together for a while. With that, Gandalf returned to the others, who were still standing by the Orthanc stone in troubled thought. Peril comes in the night, when least expected, he said. We have had a narrow escape. How is the hobbit, Pippin? Asked Aragorn. I think all will be well now, answered Gandalf. He was not held long, and hobbits have an amazing power of recovery. The memory, or the horror of it, will probably fade quickly. Too quickly, perhaps. Will you, Aragorn, take the Orthanc stone and guard it? It is a dangerous charge. Dangerous indeed, but not to all, said Aragorn. There is one who may claim it by right. For this, assuredly, is the palantir of Orthanc, from the treasury of Elendil, set there by the kings of Gondor. Now my hour draws near. I will take it. Gandalf looked at Aragorn, and then, to the surprise of the others, he lifted the covered stone and bowed as he presented it. Receive it, Lord, he said, in earnest of other things that shall be given back. But if I may counsel you in the use of your own, do not use it, yet be wary. When have I been hasty or unwary, who have waited and prepared for so many long years? Said Aragorn. Never yet. Do not then stumble at the end of the road, answered Gandalf. But at the least keep this thing secret. You and all others that stand here, the hobbit Peregrine, above all, should not know where it is bestowed. The evil fit may come on him again. For, alas, he has handled it and looked in it, and as should never have happened. You ought never to have touched it in Isengard. He ought never to have touched it in Isengard, and there I should have been quicker. But my mind was bent on Saruman, and I did not at once guess the nature of the stone. Then I was weary, and as I lay pondering it, sleep overcame me. Now I know. Yes, there can be no doubt, said Aragorn. At last we know the link between Isengard and Mordor, and how it worked. Much is explained. Strange powers have our enemies, and strange weaknesses, said Theoden. But it has long been said, oft evil will shall evil mar. That many times is seen, said Gandalf. But at this time we have been strangely fortunate. Maybe I have been saved by this hobbit from a grave blunder. I had considered whether or not to probe this stone myself, to find its uses. Had I done so, I should have been revealed to him myself. I am not ready for such a trial, if indeed I shall ever be so. But even if I found the power to withdraw myself, it would be disastrous for him to see me yet, until the hour comes when secrecy will avail no longer. That hour is now come, I think, said Aragorn. Not yet, said Gandalf. There remains a short while of doubt, which we must use. The enemy, it is clear, thought that the stone was in Orthanc. Why should he not? And that, therefore, the hobbit was captive there, driven to look in the glass for his torment by Saruman. That dark mind will be filled now with the voice and the face of the hobbit, and with expectation. It may take some time before he learns his error. We must snatch that time. We have been too leisurely. We must move. The neighborhood of Isengard is no place now to linger in. I shall ride ahead at once with Peregrine Took. It will be better for him than lying in the dark while others sleep. I will keep Eomer and 10 riders, said the king. They shall ride with me at early day. The rest may go with Aragorn and ride as soon as they have a mind. As you will, said Gandalf, but make all the speed you may to the cover of the hills, to Helm's Deep. At that moment a shadow fell over them. The bright moonlight seemed to be suddenly cut off. Several of the riders cried out and crouched, holding their arms above their heads as if to ward off a blow from above. A blind fear and a deadly cold fell on them. Cowering, they looked up. A vast winged shape passed over the moon like a black cloud. It wheeled and went north, flying at a speed greater than any wind of Middle-earth. The stars fainted before it. It was gone. They stood up, rigid as stones. Gandalf was gazing up, his arms out and downwards, stiff, his hands clenched. Nazgul, he cried, the messenger of Mordor, the storm is coming. The Nazgul have crossed the river. Ride, ride, wait not for the dawn. Let not the swift wait for the slow. Ride! He sprang away, calling Shadowfax as he ran. Aragorn followed him. Going to Pippin, Gandalf picked him up in his arms. You shall come with me this time, he said. Shadowfax shall show you his paces. Then he ran to the place where he had slept. Shadowfax stood there already. Slinging the small bag, which was all his luggage, across his shoulders, the wizard leapt upon the horse's back. Aragorn lifted Pippin and set him in Gandalf's arms, wrapped in cloak and blanket. Farewell, follow fast. Bless me. Farewell, follow fast, cried Gandalf. Away, Shadowfax! The great horse tossed his head. His flowing tail flicked in the moonlight. Then he leapt forward, spurning the earth, and was gone like the north wind from the mountains. A beautiful, restful night, said Merry to Aragorn. Some folk have wonderful luck. He did not want to sleep, and he wanted to ride with Gandalf, and there he goes! Instead of being turned into a stone himself, to stand here forever as a warning. If you had been the first to lift the Orthanc stone, and not he, how would it be now? Said Aragorn. You might have done worse. Who can say? But now it is your luck to come with me, I fear. At once. Go and get ready and bring anything that Pippin left behind. Make haste. Over the plains, Shadowfax was flying, needing no urging and no guidance. Less than an hour had passed, and they had reached the fords of Isen and crossed them. The mound of the riders and its cold spears lay gray behind them. Pippin was recovering. He was warm, but the wind in his face was keen and refreshing. He was with Gandalf. The horror of the stone and of the hideous shadow of the moon was fading. Things left behind in the mists of the mountains or in a passing dream. He drew a deep breath. I did not know you rode bareback, Gandalf, he said. You haven't a saddle or a bridle. I do not ride elf fashion, except on Shadowfax, said Gandalf, but Shadowfax will have no harness. You do not ride Shadowfax. He is willing to carry you or not. If he is willing, that is enough. It is then his business to see that you remain on his back, unless you jump off into the air. How fast is he going? Asked Pippin. Fast by the wind, but very smooth, and how light his footfalls are. He is running now as fast as the swiftest horse could gallop, answered Gandalf, but that is not fast for him. The land is rising a little here, and is more broken than it was beyond the river. But see how the white mountains are drawing near under the stars. Yonder are the Thryhirn peaks, like black spears. It will not be long before we reach the branching roads and come to the Deeping Combe, where the battle was fought 2 nights ago. Pippin was silent for a while. He heard Gandalf singing softly to himself, murmuring snatches of rhyme in many tongues as the miles ran under them. At last, the wizard passed into a song of which the hobbit caught the words. A few lines came clear to his ears through the rushing of the wind. Tall ships and tall kings, 3 times 3, what brought they from the foundered land over the flowing sea? 7 stars and 7 stones, and 1 white tree. What are you saying, Gandalf? Asked Pippin. I was just running over some of the rhymes of lore in my mind, answered the wizard. Hobbits, I suppose, have forgotten them, even those that they ever knew. Not at all, said Pippin, and we have many of our own, which wouldn't interest you, perhaps, but I have never heard this one. What is it about, the 7 stars and 7 stones? About the palantiri of the kings of old, said Gandalf. And what are they? The name meant that which looks far away. The Orthanc stone was one. Then it was not made, Pippin hesitated, by the enemy? No, said Gandalf, nor by Saruman. It is beyond his art, and beyond Sauron's too. The palantiri came from beyond Westerness, from Eldamar. The Noldor made them. Feanor himself maybe wrought them in days so long ago that the time cannot be measured in years. But there is nothing that Sauron cannot turn to evil uses. Alas for Saruman, it was his downfall, as I now perceive. Perilous to us all are the devices of an art deeper than we possess ourselves. Yet we must bear the blame. Yet he must bear the blame. Fool, to keep it secret for his own profit. No word did he ever speak of it to any of the council. We had not yet given thought to the fate of the Palantiri of Gondor in its ruinous wars. By men they were almost forgotten. Even in Gondor they were a secret known only to a few. In Arnor they were remembered only in a rhyme of lore among the Dunedain. What did the men of old use them for? Asked Pippin, delighted and astonished at getting answers to so many questions, and wondering how long it would last. To see far off, and to converse in thought with one another, said Gandalf. In that way they long guarded and united the realm of Gondor. They set up stones at Minas Anor, and at Minas Ithil, and at Orthanc in the Ring of Isengard. The chief and master of these was under the Dome of Stars at Osgiliath, before its ruin. The 3 others were far away in the north, in the house of Elrond. It is told that they were at Anúminas and Amansul, and Elendil's stone was in the Tower Hills, on the Tower Hills that look towards Mithlond, in the Gulf of Lune, where the grey ships lie. Each palantir replied to each, but all those in Gondor were ever open to the view of Osgiliath. Now it appears that, as the rock of Orthanc has withstood the storms of time, so there the palantir of that tower remained. But alone it could do nothing but see small images of things far off and days remote. Very useful, no doubt, that was to Saruman, yet it seems that he was not content. Further and further abroad he gazed, until he cast his gaze upon Barad-dûr. Then he was caught. Who knows where the lost stones of Arnor and Gondor now lie, buried or drowned deep? But one at least Sauron must have obtained and mastered to his purposes. I guess that it was the Ithil stone, for he took Minas Ithil long ago and turned it into an evil place. Minas Morgul it has become. Easy it is now to guess how quickly the roving eye of Saruman was trapped and held, and how ever since he has been persuaded from afar, and daunted when persuasion would not serve. The biter bit, the hawk under the eagle's foot, the spider in a steel web. How long, I wonder, has he been constrained to come often to his glass for inspection and instruction, and the Orthanc stone so bent towards Barad-dûr that, if any save a will of adamant now looks into it, it will bear his mind and sight swiftly thither? And how it draws one to itself! Have I not felt it? Even now in my heart, even now, my heart desires to test my will upon it, to see if I could not wrench it from him and turn it where I would, to look across the wide seas of water and of time, to Tirion the fair, and perceive the unimaginable hand and mind of Feanor at their work, while both the white tree and the golden were in flower. He sighed and fell silent. Self-silent. Let me try that again. He sighed and fell silent. I wish I had known all this before, said Pippin. I had no notion of what I was doing. Oh, yes, you had, said Gandalf. You knew you were behaving wrongly and foolishly, and you told yourself so, though you did not listen. I didn't tell you all this before, because it is only by musing on all that has happened that I have at last understood, even as we ride together. But if I had spoken sooner, it would not have lessened your desire, only made it easier to resist. Or made it easier to resist. On the contrary, no. The burned hand teaches best. After that, advice about fire goes to the heart. It does, said Pippin. If all the 7 stones were laid out before me now, I should shut my eyes and put my hands in my pockets. Good, said Gandalf. That is what I hoped. But I should like to know, Pippin began. Mercy, cried Gandalf. If the giving of information is to be the cure of your inquisitiveness, I shall spend all the rest of my days in answering you. What more do you want to know? the names of all the stars, and of all living things, and the whole history of Middle-earth and over heaven, and of the sundering seas, laughed Pippin. Of course, what less? But I'm not in a hurry tonight. At the moment, I was just wondering about the Black Shadow. I heard you shout, Messenger of Mordor? What was it? What could it do at Isengard? It was a black rider on wings, a Nazgul, said Gandalf. It could have taken you away to the Dark Tower. But it was not coming for me, was it? Faltered Pippin. I mean, it didn't know that I had... Of course not, said Gandalf. It is 200 leagues or more in a straight line. It is 200 leagues or more in straight flight from Barad-dûr to Orthanc, and even a Nazgul would take a few hours to fly between them. But Saruman certainly looked in the stone since the orc raid, and more of his secret thought, I do not doubt, has been read than he intended. A messenger has been sent to find out what he is doing. And after what has happened, tonight another will come, I think, and swiftly. So Saruman will come to the last pinch of the vice that he has put his hand in. He has no captive to send. He has no stone to see with. Cannot answer the summons. Sauron will only believe that he is withholding the captive and refusing to use the stone. It will not help Saruman to tell the truth to the messenger, for Isengard may be ruined, yet he is still safe in Orthanc. So whether he will or no, he will appear a rebel. Yet he rejected us, so as to avoid that very thing. What he will do in such a plight I cannot guess. He has power still, I think, while in Orthanc, to resist the 9 riders. He may try to do so. He may try to trap the Nazgul, or at least to slay the thing on which it now rides the air. In that case, let Rohan look to its horses. But I cannot tell how it will fall out, well or ill, for us. It may be that the counsels of the enemy will be confused or hindered by his wrath with Saruman. It may be that he will learn that I was there and stood upon the stairs of Orthanc with hobbits at my tail, or that an heir of Elendil lives and stood beside me. If Wormtongue was not deceived by the armor of Rohan, he would remember Aragorn and the title that he claimed. That is what I fear. And so we fly, not from danger, but into greater danger. Every stride of Shadowfax bears you nearer to the land of shadow, Peregrine Took. Pippin made no answer, but clutched his cloak as if a sudden chill had struck him. Grey land passed under them. See now, said Gandalf, the Westfold Dales are opening before us. Here we come back to the eastward road. The dark shadow yonder is the mouth of the Deeping Combe. That way lies Aglarond and the glittering caves. Do not ask me about them, ask Gimli, if you meet again, and for the first time you may get an answer longer than you wish. You will not see the caves yourself, not on this journey. Soon they will be far behind. I thought you were going to stop at Helm's Deep, said Pippin. Well, where are you going then? To Minas Tirith, before the seas of war surround it. Oh, and how far is that? Leagues upon leagues, answered Gandalf. Thrice as far as the dwellings of King Theoden, and they are more than 100 miles east of here. As the messengers of Mordor fly, Shadowfax must run a longer road. Which will prove the swifter? We shall ride now till daybreak, and that is some hours away. Then even Shadowfax must rest, in some hollow of the hills, at Edoras, I hope. Sleep if you can. You may see the first glimmer of dawn upon the golden roof of the house of Eorl. And in 2 days thence you shall see the purple shadow of Mount Minduluin, and the walls of the Tower of Denethor white in the morning. Away now, Shadowfax! Run, great heart! Run as you have never run before! Now we are come to the lands where you were foaled, and every stone you know. Run now, hope is in speed! Shadowfax tossed his head and cried aloud as if a trumpet had summoned him to battle. Then he sprang forward. Fire flew from his feet. Night rushed over him. As he fell slowly into sleep, Pippin had a strange feeling. He and Gandalf were still as stone, seated upon a statue of a running horse, while the world rolled away beneath his feet with a great noise of wind. That is the end of the first half of The Lord of the Rings. In a few moments, we will continue with, literally, that is the end of the first half of The Lord of the Rings. That is correct. Books 1, 2, and 3 being The Fellowship of the Ring and the first half of The Two Towers. In a moment, we'll come back with Book 4, the last half of The Two Towers, and we will continue with the taming of Smeagol. We'll be right back. Just tea, thank you. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're off on the next exciting chapter of our J.R.R. Tolkien readathon that we began on Christmas morning. Yes, so this is our 9th full day, 9 full days of live reading The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So everyone, welcome. An editorial note for those of you who are just joining us. We are reading the entire text of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings, which I have collected in one volume, one single volume, which is the way Professor Tolkien originally wanted it. However, this 1,200-page story is divided into 6 books. Books 1 and 2 are in the Fellowship of the Ring. Books 3 and 4 are here in the Two Towers, right where we are now. In the coming days, we will finish Book 5 and Book 6 of The Return of the King. Okay? So here we are. The Two Towers, Book 4. Now we leave Gandalf and Pippin and Aragorn and Legolas behind, and we go to the other side of the river and find out what happened with Frodo and Sam after the moment of the breaking of the Fellowship. This is The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, Book 4, Chapter 1, The Taming of Smeagol. Well, master, we're in a fix and no mistake, said Sam Gamgee. He stood despondently with hunched shoulders beside Frodo and peered out with puckered eyes into the gloom. It was the 3rd evening since they had fled from the company, as far as they could tell. They had almost lost count of the hours during which they had climbed and labored among the barren slopes and stones of the Imen Muir, sometimes retracing their steps because they could find no way forward, sometimes discovering that they had wandered in a circle back to where they had been hours before. Yet, on the whole, they had worked steadily eastward, keeping as near as they could find a way to the outer edge of this strange twisted knot of hills. But always they found its outward faces sheer, high, and impassable, frowning over the plain below. Beyond its tumbled skirts lay livid, festering marshes where nothing moved and not even a bird was to be seen. The hobbits stood now on the brink of a tall cliff, bare and bleak, its feet wrapped in mist. And behind them rose the broken highlands, crowned with drifting cloud. A chill wind blew from the east. Night was gathering over the shapeless lands before them, and sickly green, the sickly green of them was fading to a sullen brown. Far away to the right, the Anduin that had gleamed fitfully in sunbreaks during the day was now hidden in shadow. But their eyes did not look beyond the river, back to Gondor, to their friends, to the lands of men. South and east they stared, to where at the edge of the oncoming night a dark line hung, like distant mountains of motionless smoke. Every now and again, a tiny red gleam far away flickered upwards on the rim of earth and sky. What a fix, said Sam. That's the one place in all the lands we've ever heard of that we don't want to see any closer, and it's the one place we're trying to get to. And that's just where we can't get nohow. We've come the wrong way altogether, seemingly. We can't get down, and if we did get down, we'd find all that green land a nasty bog, I'll warrant. Phew, can you smell it? He sniffed at the wind. Yes, I can smell it, said Frodo, but he did not move, and his eyes remained fixed, staring out towards the dark line and the flickering flame. Mordor, he muttered under his breath. If I must go there, I wish I could come there quickly and make an end. He shuddered. The wind was chilly and yet heavy with an odor of cold decay. Well, he said, at last withdrawing his eyes, we cannot stay here all night, fix or no fix. We must find a more sheltered spot, and camp once more, and perhaps another day will show us a path. Or another, and another, and another, muttered Sam. Or maybe no day. We've come the wrong way. I wonder, said Frodo, it's my doom, I think, to go to that shadow yonder, so that a way will be found. But will good or evil show it to me? What hope we had was in speed. Delay plays into the enemy's hands, and here I am, delayed. Is it the will of the Dark Tower that steers us? All my choices have proved ill. I should have left the company long before and come down from the north, east of the river and of the Emmanuel, and so over the hard of battle plain to the passes of Mordor. But now it isn't possible for you and me alone to find a way back. And the orcs are prowling on the east bank. Every day that passes is a precious day lost. I'm tired, Sam. I don't know what is to be done. What food have we got left? Only those, what do you call 'em, lambas, Mr. Frodo. A fair supply, but they are better than naught by a long bite. I never thought, though, when I first set tooth in them, that I should ever come to wish for a change. But I do now. A bit of plain bread and a mug, aye, half a mug of beer would go down proper. I've lugged my cooking gear all the way from the last camp. And what use has it been? Not to make a fire with, for a start, and not to cook, not even grass. They turned away and went down into a stony hollow. The westering sun was caught into clouds, and night came swiftly. They slept as well as they could for the cold, turn and turn about, in a nook among great jagged pinnacles of weathered rock. At least they were sheltered from the easterly wind. Did you see them again, Mr. Frodo? Asked Sam, as they sat, stiff and chilled, munching wafers of lambas, in the cold grey of early morning. No, said Frodo. I've heard nothing and seen nothing, for 2 nights now. Nor me, said Sam. Grr, those eyes did give me a turn. But perhaps we've shaken him off at last, the miserable slinker. Gollum, I'll give him a Gollum in his throat if I ever get my hands on his neck. I hope you'll never need to, said Frodo. I don't know how he followed us, but it may be that he's lost us again, as you say. In this dry, bleak land, we can't leave many footprints, nor much scent, even for his snuffling nose. I hope that's the way of it, said Sam. I wish we could be rid of him for good. So do I, said Frodo, but he's not my chief trouble. I wish we could get away from these hills. I hate them. I feel all naked on the east side, stuck up here with nothing but the dead flats between me and the shadow yonder. There's an eye in it. Come on, we've got to get down today somehow. But that day wore on, and when afternoon faded towards evening, they were still scrambling along the ridge and had found no way of escape. Sometimes in the silence of that barren country, they fancied that they had heard faint sounds behind them, a stone falling, or the imagined step of flapping feet on the rock. But if they halted and stood still listening, they heard no more, nothing but the wind sighing over the edges of the stones. Yet even that reminded them of breath softly hissing through sharp teeth. All that day the outer ridge of the Emmanuel had been bending gradually northward as they struggled on. Along its brink there now stretched a wide tumbled flat of scored and weathered rock, cut every now and again by trench-like gullies that sloped steeply down to deep notches on the cliff face. To find a path in these clefts, which were becoming deeper and more frequent, Frodo and Sam were driven to their left, well away from the edge, and they did not notice that for several miles they had been going slowly but steadily downhill. The cliff top was sinking towards the level of the lowlands. At last, they were brought to a halt. The ridge took a sharper bend northward and was gashed by a deeper ravine. On the further side, it reared up again. Many fathoms at a single leap, a great gray cliff loomed before them, cut sheer down as if by a knife stroke. They could go no further northwards. They could go no further forwards, and must turn now either west or east. But west would lead them only into more labor and decay and delay. Back towards the heart of the hills, east would take them to the outer precipice. "There's nothing for it but to scramble down this gully, Sam," said Frodo. "Let's see what it leads to." "Oh, a nasty drop, I'll bet," said Sam. The cleft was longer and deeper than it seemed. Some way down, they found a few gnarled and stunted trees, the first they had seen for days. Twisted birch for the most part, but here and there a fir tree. Many were dead and gaunt, bitten to the core by the eastern winds. Once, in milder days, there must have been a fair thicket in the ravine, but now, after some 50 yards, the trees came to an end, though old broken stumps straggled on, almost to the cliff's brink. The bottom of the gully, which lay along the edge of a rock fault, was rough with broken stone and slanted steeply down. When they came at last to the end of it, Frodo stooped and leaned out. "Look," he said, "we must have come down a long way, or else the cliff has sunk. It's much lower here than it was, and it looks easier, too." Sam knelt beside him and peered reluctantly over the edge. Then he glanced up at the great cliff rising up away on their left. "Easier?" he grunted. "Well, I suppose it's always easier getting down than up. Those as can't fly can jump." "It would be a big jump still," said Frodo. Well, he stood for a moment measuring it with his eyes. "About 18 fathoms, I should guess, not more." "And that's enough," said Sam. "Ugh, how I do hate looking down from a height. But looking's better than climbing." "All the same," said Frodo, "I think we could climb here, and I think we shall have to try. See, the rock is quite different from what it was a few miles back. It has slipped and cracked." The outer fall was indeed no longer sheer, but sloped outwards a little. It looked like a great rampart or sea-wall whose foundations had shifted, so that its courses were all twisted and disordered, leaving great fissures and long, slanting edges that were in place almost as wide as stairs. "And if we're going to try and get down, we had better try it at once. It's getting dark early. I think there's a storm coming." The smoky blur of the mountains in the east was lost in a deeper blackness that was already reaching out westwards with long arms. There was a distant mutter of thunder borne on the rising breeze. Frodo sniffed the air and looked up doubtfully at the sky. He strapped his belt outside his cloak and tightened it, and settled his light pack on his back. Then he stepped towards the edge. "I'm going to try it," he said. "Very good," said Sam gloomily, "but I'm going first." "You?" said Frodo. "What made you change your mind about climbing?" "I haven't changed my mind, but it's only sense. Put the one lowest as is most likely to slip. I don't want to come down atop of you and knock you off. No sense in killing two with one fall." Before Frodo could stop him, he sat down, swung his legs over the brink, and twisted round, scrabbling with his toes for a foothold. It is doubtful if he ever did anything braver in cold blood, or more unwise. No, "No, Sam, you old ass," said Frodo. "You'll kill yourself for certain, going over like that without even a look to see what to make for. Come back." He took Sam under the armpits and hauled him up again. "Now, wait a bit and be patient," he said. Then he lay on the ground, leaning and looking down, but the light seemed to be fading quickly, although the sun had not yet set. "I think we could manage this," he said presently. "I could, at any rate, and you could too if you kept your head and followed me carefully." "I don't know how you can be so sure," said Sam. "Why? You can't see the bottom in this light. What if you comes to a place where there's nowhere to put your feet or your hands?" "Climb back, I suppose." "Easy said," objected Sam. "Better wait till morning and more light." "No, not if I can help it," said Frodo with a sudden, strange vehemence. "I grudge every hour, every minute. I'm going down to try it out. Now don't you follow till I come back or call." Gripping the stony lip of the fall, with his fingers he let himself gently down, until when his arms were almost at full stretch, his toes found a ledge. "One step down," he said, "and this ledge broadens out to the right. I could stand there without a hold. I'll—" His words were cut short. The hurrying darkness, now gathering great speed, rushed up from the east and swallowed the sky. There was a dry, splitting crack of thunder right overhead. Searing lightning smote down into the hills. Then came a blast of savage wind, and with it, mingling with its roar, there came a high, shrill shriek. The hobbits had heard just such a cry far away in the Marish, as they fled from Hobbiton, and even there in the woods of the Shire, it had frozen their blood. Out here in the waste, its terror was far greater. It pierced them with cold blades of horror and despair, stopping heart and breath. Sam fell flat on his face. Involuntarily, Frodo loosed his hold and put his hands over his head and ears. He swayed, slipped, and slithered downwards with a wailing cry. Sam heard him and crawled with an effort to the edge. "Master? Master," he called. "Master!" He heard no answer. He found he was shaking all over, but he gathered his breath, and once again he shouted, "Master!" The wind seemed to blow his voice back into his throat, but as it passed, roaring up the gully and away over the hills, a faint answering cry came to his ears. All right, I'm here, but I can't see." Frodo was calling in a weak voice. He was not actually very far away. He had slid and not fallen, and had come up with a jolt to his feet on a wider ledge not many yards lower down. Fortunately, the rock face at this point leaned well back, and the wind had pressed him against the cliff, so that he had not toppled over. He steadied himself a little, laying his face against the cold stone, feeling his heart pounding. But either the darkness had grown complete, or else his eyes had lost their sight. All was black about him. He wondered if he had been struck blind. He took a deep breath. "Come back, come back," he heard Sam's voice out of the blackness above. "I can't," he said. "I can't see. I can't find any hold. I can't move yet." "No, what can I do, Mr. Frodo? What can I do?" shouted Sam, leaning out dangerously far. Why could not his master see? It was dim, certainly, but not as dark as all that. He could see Frodo below him, a gray, forlorn figure splayed against the cliff. But he was far out of the reach of any helping hand. There was another crack of thunder, and then the rain came in a blinding sheet mingled with hail. It drove against the cliff, bitter cold. I'm coming down to you, shouted Sam, though now he hoped to help. But how he hoped to help in that way he could not have said. No, no, wait, Frodo called back, more strongly now. I shall be better soon. I feel better already. Wait, you can't do anything without a rope. Rope, cried Sam, talking wildly to himself in his excitement and relief. Well, if I don't deserve to be hung on the end of one as a warning to numbskulls. You're naught but a ninny hammer, Sam Gamgee. That's what the gaffer said to me often enough, it being a word of his. Rope! Stop chattering, cried Frodo, now recovered enough to feel both amused and annoyed. Never mind your gaffer. Are you trying to tell yourself you've got some rope in your pocket? If so, out with it. Yes, Mr. Frodo, in my pack and all. Carried it hundreds of miles, and I'd clean forgotten it. Well, then get busy and let an end down. Quickly Sam unslung his pack and rummaged in it. There indeed, at the bottom, was a coil of the silken grey rope, made by the folk of Lorien. He cast an end to his master. The darkness seemed to lift from Frodo's eyes, or else his sight was returning. He could see the grey line as it came dangling down, and he thought it had a faint silver sheen. Now that he had some points in the darkness to fix his eyes on, he felt less giddy. Leaning his weight forward, he made the end fast round his waist, and then he grasped the line with both hands. Sam stepped back and braced his feet against a stump a yard or two from the edge. Half hauled, half scrambling, Frodo came up and threw himself on the ground. Thunder growled and rumbled in the distance, and the rain was still falling heavily. The hobbits crawled away back into the gully, but they did not find much shelter there. Rills of water began to run down, and soon they grew to a spate that splashed and fumed on the stones and spouted out over the cliff like the gutters of a vast roof. I should have been half drowned down there, or washed clean off, said Frodo. What a piece of luck you had that rope. Better luck if I'd thought of it sooner, said Sam. Maybe you remember them putting the ropes in the boats as we started off, in the Elvish country. I took a fancy to it, and I stowed a coil in my pack. Years ago, it seems. It may be a help in many needs, he said, Haldir, or one of those folk, and he spoke right. A pity I didn't think of bringing another length, said Frodo, but I left the company in such a hurry and confusion. If only we had enough, we could use it to get down. How long is your rope, I wonder? Sam paid it out slowly, measuring it with his arms. 5, 10, 20, 30 ells, more or less, he said. Who'd have thought it? Frodo exclaimed. Ah, who would, said Sam. Elves are wonderful folk. It looks a bit thin, but it's tough, and soft as milk to the hand. Packs close, too, and as light as light. Wonderful folk, to be sure. 30 ells, said Frodo, considering. I believe it would be enough. If the storm passes before nightfall, I'm going to try it. The rain's nearly given over already, said Sam. But don't you do anything risky in the dim again, Mr. Frodo, and I haven't got over the shriek on the wind yet, if you have. Like a black rider it sounded, but one up in the air if they can fly. I'm thinking we'd best lay up in this crack till night's over. And I'm thinking that I won't spend a moment longer than I need, stuck up on this edge with the eyes of the dark country looking over the marshes, said Frodo. With that, he stood up and went down to the bottom of the gully again. He looked out. Clear sky was growing in the east once more. The skirts of the storm were lifting, ragged and wet, and the main battle had passed to spread its great wings over the Emen Muil, upon which the dark thought of Sauron brooded for a while. Thence it turned, smiting the vale of Anduin with hail and lightning, and casting its shadow upon Minas Tirith with threat of war. Then, lowering in the mountains and gathering its great spires, it rolled on slowly over Gondor and the skirts of Rohan, until far away the riders on the plain saw its black towers moving behind the sun as they rode into the west. But here, over the desert and the reeking marshes, the deep blue sky of evening opened up once more, and a few pallid stars appeared, like small white holes in the canopy above the crescent moon. "It's good to be able to see again," said Frodo, breathing deep. "Oh, do you know, I thought for a bit that I had lost my sight. Oh, from the lightning or something worse. I could see nothing at all, until the gray rope came down. It seemed to shimmer somehow." "It does look sort of silver in the dark," said Sam. "Never noticed it before, though I can't remember as I've ever had it out since I first stowed it. But if you're so set on climbing, Mr. Frodo, how are you going to use it? 30 ells, or, say, about 18 fathom. That's no more than your guess at the height of the cliff." Frodo thought for a while. "Make it fast to that stump, Sam," he said. "Then I think you shall have your wish this time and go first. I'll lower you, and you need do no more than use your feet and hands to fend yourself off the rock. Though, if you put your weight on some of the ledges and give me a rest, it will help. When you're down, I'll follow. I feel quite myself again, and now. I feel quite myself again now." "Very well," said Sam heavily. "If it must be, let's get it over." He took up the rope and made it fast over the stump nearest to the brink. Then the other end he tied about his own waist. Reluctantly he turned and prepared to go over the edge a second time. It did not, however, turn out half as bad as he had expected. The rope seemed to give him confidence, though he shut his eyes more than once when he looked down between his feet. There was one awkward spot where there was no ledge and the wall was sheer and even undercut for a short space. There he slipped and swung out on the silvery line. But Frodo lowered him slowly and steadily, and it was over at last. His chief fear had been that the rope length would give out while he was still high up, but there was still a good bite in Frodo's hands. When Sam came to the bottom and called up, "I'm down," his voice came up clearly from below, but Frodo could not see him. His gray elven cloak had melted into the twilight. Frodo took rather more time to follow him. He had the rope about his waist, and it was fast above, and he had shortened it so that it would pull him up before he reached the ground. Still, he did not want to risk a fall, and he had not quite Sam's faith in this slender gray line. He found two places, all the same, where he had to trust wholly to it. Smooth surfaces, where there was no hold, even for his strong hobbit fingers, and the ledges were far apart. But at last, he too was down. "Well," he cried, "we've done it. We've escaped from the Emen Muil. And now what next, I wonder? Maybe we shall soon be sighing for good hard rock underfoot again." But Sam did not answer. He was staring back up the cliff. "Ninny hammers," he said. "Noodles. My beautiful rope. There it is, tied to a stump, and we're at the bottom. Just as nice a little stair for that slinking Gollum as we could leave. Better put up a signpost and say which way we've gone. I thought it seemed a bit too easy. If you can think of any way we could have both used the rope and yet brought it down with us, then you can pass on to me Ninnyhammer, or any other name your gaffer gave you," said Frodo. "Climb up and untie it and let yourself down if you want to." Sam scratched his head. "No, I can't think how, begging your pardon," he said, "but I don't like leaving it, and that's a fact." He stroked the rope's end and shook it gently. "It goes hard parting with anything I brought out of the elf country. Made by Galadriel herself, too, maybe." "Galadriel," he muttered, nodding his head mournfully. He looked up and gave one last pull to the rope as if in farewell. Tch! To the complete surprise of both the hobbits, it came loose. Sam fell over, and the long gray coils slithered silently down on top of him. Frodo laughed. "Who tied the rope?" he said. "A good thing it held as long as it did. To think that I trusted all my weight to your knot." Sam did not laugh. "I may not be much good at climbing, Mr. Frodo," he said in injured tones, "but I do know something about rope and about knots. It's in the family, as you might say. Why, my granddad and my Uncle Andy after him that was the gaffer's eldest brother, he had a rope walk over by Tyfield many a year. And I put as fast a hitch over the stump as anyone could have done, in the Shire or out of it." "Then the rope must have broken. Frayed on the rock edge, I expect," said Frodo. "I bet it didn't," said Sam, in an even more injured voice. He stooped and examined the ends. "Nor it hasn't, neither. Not a strand." "Then I'm afraid it must have been the knot," said Frodo. Sam shook his head and did not answer. He was passing the rope through his fingers thoughtfully. "Have it your own way, Mr. Frodo," he said at last, "but I think the rope came off itself when I called." He coiled it up and stowed it lovingly in his pack. "It certainly came," said Frodo, "and that's the chief thing. But now we've got to think about our next move. Night will be on us soon. How beautiful the stars are, and the moon." "They do cheer the heart, don't they?" said Sam, looking up. "Elvish they are, somehow. And the moon's growing. We haven't seen him for a night or two in this cloudy weather. He's beginning to give quite a light." "Yes," said Frodo, "but he won't be full for some days. I don't think we'll try the marshes by the light of half a moon." Under the first shadows of night, they started out on the next stage of their journey. After a while, Sam turned and looked back at the way they had come. The mouth of the gully was a black notch in the dim cliff. "I'm glad we've got the rope," he said. "We've set a little puzzle for that footpad, anyhow. He can try his nasty flappy feet on those ledges." They picked their steps away from the skirts of the cliff, among a wilderness of boulders and rough stones, wet and slippery with the heavy rain. The ground still fell away sharply. They had not gone very far when they came upon a great fissure that yawned suddenly black before their feet. It was not wide, but it was too wide to jump across in the dim light. They thought they could hear water gurgling in its depths. It curved away on their left northward, back towards the hills, and so barred their road in that direction, at any rate, while the darkness lasted. "We'd better try a way back southwards along the line of the cliff, I think," said Sam. "We might find some nook there, or even a cave or something." "I suppose so," said Frodo. "I'm tired, and I don't think I can scramble among stones much longer tonight, though I grudge the delay. I wish there was a clear path in front of us. Then I'd go on till my legs gave way." They did not find the going any easier at the broken feet of the Amenmuil, nor did Sam find any nook or hollow to shelter in. Only bare stony slopes frowned over the cliff, which now rose again, higher and more sheer as they went back. In the end, worn out, they just cast themselves on the ground under the lee of a boulder lying not far from the foot of the precipice. There, for some time, they sat huddled mournfully together in the cold, stony light. while sleep crept upon them in spite of all they could do to hold it off. The moon now rode high and clear. Its thin, white light lit up the faces of the rocks and drenched the cold, frowning walls of the cliff, turning all the wide looming darkness into a chill, pale gray, scored with black shadows. "Well," said Frodo, standing and drawing his cloak more closely about him, "you sleep for a bit, Sam, and take my blanket. I'll walk up and down on sentry for a while." Suddenly he stiffened, and stooping, he gripped Sam by the arm. "What's that?" he whispered. "Look, over there, on the cliff." Sam looked and breathed in sharply through his teeth. "Sss," he said. "That's what it is. It's that Gollum, snakes and adders. And to think that I thought that we'd puzzle him with our bit of a climb. Look at him, like a nasty, crawling spider on a wall." Down the face of a precipice, sheer and almost smooth it seemed in the pale moonlight. Indeed, a small black shape was moving with its thin limbs splayed out. Maybe its soft clinging hands and toes were finding crevices and holes that no hobbit could ever have seen or used, but it looked as if it was just creeping down on sticky pads, like some large, prowling thing of insect kind. Oof. And it was coming down head first, as if it were smelling his way, as if it was smelling its way. Now and again, it lifted its head slowly, turning right back on its long, skinny neck, and the hobbits caught a glimpse of two small, pale, gleaming lights, its eyes that blinked at the moon for a moment and then were quickly lidded again. "Do you think that he can see us?" said Sam. "I don't know," said Frodo quietly, "but I think not. It is hard, even for friendly eyes, to see these elven cloaks. I cannot see you in the shadow, even at a few paces, and I've heard that he doesn't like sun or moon." "Then why is he coming down just here?" asked Sam. "Quietly, Sam," said Frodo. "He can smell us, perhaps, and he can hear as keen as elves, I believe. I think he has heard something now, our voices probably. We did a lot of shouting way back there, and we were talking far too loudly a minute ago." "Well, I'm sick of him," said Sam. "He's come too often for me, and I'm going to have a word with him if I can. I don't suppose we could give him the slip now anyway." Drawing his gray hood well over his face, Sam crept stealthily towards the cliff. "Careful," whispered Frodo, coming behind. "Don't alarm him. He's much more dangerous than he looks." The black, crawling shape was now 3/4 of the way down, and perhaps 50 feet or less above the cliff's foot. Crouching stone still in the shadow of a large boulder, the hobbits watched him. He seemed to have come to a difficult passage, or to be troubled about something. They could hear him snuffling, and now and again, there was a harsh hiss of breath that sounded like a curse. He lifted his head, and they thought they heard him spit. Then he moved on again. Now they could hear his voice creaking and whistling. "Ah, cautious, my precious. More haste, less speed. We mustn't risk our neck. Must we, precious? No, precious Gollum." He lifted his head again, blinked at the moon, and quickly shut his eyes. "We hate it," he hissed. "Nasty, nasty, shivery light it is. Hiss. It spies on us, precious. It hurts our eyes." He was getting lower now, and his hisses became sharper and clearer. Where is it? Where is it? My precious, my precious. It's ours, it is, and we wants it. The thieves, the filthy little thieves, where are they with my precious?" Curse them! We hate them! It doesn't sound as if he knew we were here, does it? Whispered Sam. And what's this about his precious? Does he mean the... Shh! Breathed Frodo. He's getting near now, near enough to hear a whisper. Indeed, Gollum had suddenly paused again, and his large head on his scrawny neck was rolling from side to side as if he was listening. His pale eyes were half unlidded. Sam restrained himself, though his fingers were twitching. His eyes, filled with anger and disgust, were fixed on the wretched creature as he now began to move again, still whispering and hissing to himself. At last, he was no more than a dozen feet from the ground, right above their heads. From that point, there was a sheer drop, for the cliff was slightly undercut. And even Gollum could not find a hold of any kind. He seemed to be trying to twist round, so as to go legs first, when suddenly, with a shrill, whistling shriek, he fell. As he did so, he curled his legs and arms up around him like a spider whose descending thread is snapped. Sam was out of hiding in a flash, and crossed the space between him and the cliff foot in a couple of leaps. Before Gollum could get up, he was on top of him. But he found Gollum more than he bargained for, even taken like that, suddenly off his guard after a fall. Before Sam could get a hold, long legs and arms were wound round him, pinning his arms, and a clinging grip. Soft but horribly strong, was squeezing him like slowly tightening cords. Clammy fingers were feeling for his throat. The sharp teeth bit into his shoulder. All he could do was to butt his hard round head sideways into the creature's face. Gollum hissed and spat, but he did not let go. Things would have gone ill with Sam if he had been alone, but Frodo sprang up and drew Sting from its sheath. With his left hand, he drew back Gollum's head by a lank, thin hair, stretching his long neck and forcing his pale, venomous eyes to stare up at the sky. "Let's go, Gollum," he said. "Let go, Gollum," he said. "This is Sting. You have seen it before, once upon a time. Let go, or you'll feel it this time. I'll cut your throat." Gollum collapsed and went as loose as a wet string. Sam got up, fingering his shoulder. His eyes smoldered with anger, but he could not avenge himself. His miserable enemy lay groveling on the stones and whimpering. "Don't hurt us. Don't let them hurt us, precious. They won't hurt us, will they? Nice little hobbitses. We don't mean no harm, but they jumps on us like cats on poor mices. They did, precious, and we're so lonely, Gollum. We'll be nice to them, very nice, if they'll be nice to us, won't we? Yes, yes." "Well, what's to be done with it?" said Sam. "Tie it up so as it can't come sneaking after us no more, I say." "But that would kill us, whimpered Gollum. "Cruel little hobbitses, ties us up in the cold, hard lands and leave us, Gollum." Sobs welled up in his gobbling throat. "No," said Frodo. "If we kill him, we must kill him outright. But we can't do that, not as things are. Poor wretch, he has done us no harm." "Oh, hasn't he?" said Sam, rubbing his shoulder. "Anyway, he meant to, and he means to, I'll warrant. Throttle us in our sleep, that's his plan." "I dare say," said Frodo, "but what he means to do is another matter. He paused for a while and thought. Gollum lay still, but stopped whimpering. Sam stood glowering over him. It seemed to Frodo, then, that he heard, quite plainly but far off, voices out of the past. What a pity Bilbo did not stab the vile creature when he had a chance. Pity? It was pity that stayed his hand. Pity and mercy, not to strike without need. I do not feel any pity for Gollum. He deserves death. Deserves death? Ah, ho, ho. I dare say he does. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them? Then be not too eager to deal out death in the name of justice, fearing for your own safety. Even the wise cannot see all ends. Very well, he answered aloud, lowering his sword, but still I am afraid, and yet, as you see, I will not touch the creature, for now that I see him, I do pity him. Sam stared at his master, who seemed to be speaking to someone who was not there. Gollum lifted his head. Yes, wretched we are, precious, he whined. Misery, misery. Hobbits won't kill us. Nice hobbits. No, we won't, said Frodo, but we won't let you go either. You are full of wickedness and mischief, Gollum. You will have to come with us, that's all, while we keep an eye on you. But you must help us. If you can, one good turn deserves another. Yes, yes, indeed, said Gollum, sitting up. Nice hobbits. We will come with them. Find them safe paths in the dark. Yes, we will. And where are they going in these cold, hard lands, we wonders? Yes, we wonders. He looked up at them, and a faint light of cunning and eagerness flickered for a second in his pale, blinking eyes. Sam scowled at him and sucked his teeth, but he seemed to sense that there was something odd about his master's mood, and that the matter was beyond argument. All the same, he was amazed at Frodo's reply. Frodo looked straight into Gollum's eyes, which flinched and twisted away. You know that, or you guess well enough, Smeagol, he said quietly and sternly. We are going to Mordor, of course, and you know the way there, I believe. Ach, said Gollum, covering his ears with his hands, as if such frankness and the open speaking of the names hurt him. We guessed, you guessed, he whispered, and we didn't want them to go, did we? No, precious. No, precious. Not the nice hobbits. Ashes, ashes and dust. And thirst there is, and pits, 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 and orcs, thousands of orcses. Nice hobbits mustn't go to those places. So you have been there, Frodo insisted, and you're being drawn back there, aren't you? Yes, yes, no, shrieked Gollum. Once by accident it was, wasn't it, precious? Yes, by accident, but we won't go back, no, no. Then suddenly his voice and language changed, and he sobbed in his throat and spoke, but not to them. Leave me alone, Gollum. You hurt me. Oh, my poor hands, Gollum. I don't want to come back. I can't find it. I'm tired. We can't find it, Gollum, Gollum. No, nowhere. They're always awake. Dwarves, men and elves, terrible elves with bright eyes. I can't find it. Ah! He got up and clenched his long hand into a bony, fleshless knot, shaking it towards the east. We won't, he cried, not for you. Then he collapsed again. Gollum, Gollum, he whispered with his face to the ground, don't look at us. Go away. Go to sleep. He will not go away or go to sleep at your command, Smeagol, said Frodo, but if you really wish to be free of him again, then you must help me. And that, I fear, means finding us a path towards him. But you need not go all the way, and not beyond the gates of his land. Gollum sat up again and looked at him under his eyelids. He's over there, he cackled. Always there. Orcs will take you all the way. Easy to find orcs east of the river. Don't ask Smeagol. Poor, poor Smeagol. He went away long ago. They took his precious, and he's lost now. Perhaps we'll find him again if you come with us, said Frodo. Oh, no, never. He lost his precious, said Gollum. Get up, said Frodo. Gollum stood up and backed away against the cliff. Now, said Frodo, can you find a path easier by day or by night? We're tired, but if you choose the night, we'll start tonight. The bright lights hurts our eyes, they do, Gollum whined. Not under the white face, not yet. It will go behind the hills soon, yes? Rest a bit first, nice hobbits. Then sit down, said Frodo, and don't move. The hobbits seated themselves beside him, one on either side, with their backs to the stony wall, resting their legs. There was no need for any arrangement by word. They knew that they must not sleep for a moment. Slowly the moon went by. Shadows fell down from the hills, and all grew dark before them. The stars grew thick, and bright in the sky above. No one stirred. Gollum sat with his legs drawn up, his eyes closed, but he seemed tense, as if thinking or listening. Frodo looked across at Sam. Their eyes met, and they understood. They relaxed, leaning their heads back, shutting their eyes, or seeming to. Soon the sound of their soft breathing could be heard. Gollum's hands twitched a little. Hardly perceptibly, his head moved to the left and the right. At first one eye, and then the other, opened a slit. The hobbits made no sign. Suddenly, with startling agility and speed, straight off the ground with a jump like a grasshopper or frog, Gollum bounded forward into the darkness. But that was just what Frodo and Sam had expected. Sam was on him before he had gone 2 paces after his spring. Frodo, coming behind, grabbed his leg and threw him. Your rope might prove useful again, Sam, he said. Sam got out the rope. And where were you off in the cold, hard lands, Mr. Gollum, he growled. We wonders. To some of your orc friends, I'll warrant. You nasty, treacherous creature. It's round your neck this rope ought to go, and a tight noose, too. Gollum lay quiet and tried no further tricks. He did not answer Sam. He did not answer Sam, but gave him a swift, venomous look. All we need is something to keep a hold on him, said Frodo. We want him to talk. We want him to walk, so it's no good tying his legs or his arms. He seems to use them nearly as much. Tie one end to his ankle and give a grip on the other hand. He stood over Gollum while Sam tied the knot. The end result surprised them both. Gollum began to scream, a thin, tearing sound, very horrible to hear. He writhed and tried to get his mouth to his ankle and bite the rope. He kept on screaming. At last, Frodo was convinced that he really was in pain, but it could not be from the knot. He examined it and found that it was not too tight. Indeed, hardly tight enough. Sam was gentler than his words. What's the matter with you? He said. If you want to try to run away, you must be tied. But we don't. "What?" "To hurt you." It hurts us, hissed Gollum. "It freezes, it bites. Elves twisted it, curse them. Nasty, cruel hobbits. That's why we tries to escape, of course. It is precious. We guessed they were cruel hobbits. They visit elves. They visits elves. Fierce elves with bright eyes. Take it off us. It hurts us." "No, I will not take it off you," said Frodo. "Not unless—" He paused a moment and thought. "Not unless there is any promise you can make that I can trust." "We will swear to do what he wants." "Yes, yes," said Gollum, still twisting and grabbing at his ankle. "It hurts us." "Swear?" said Frodo. "Smeagol," said Gollum suddenly and clearly, opening his eyes wide and staring at Frodo with a strange light. "Smeagol will swear on the precious." Frodo drew himself up, and again Sam was startled by his words and his stern voice. "On the precious? How dare you?" he said. "Think! One ring to rule them all, and in the darkness bind them. Would you commit your promise to that, Smeagol? It will hold you, but it is more treacherous than you are. It may twist your words. Beware." Gollum cowered. "On the precious, he repeated. "And what would you swear?" asked Frodo. "To be very, very good," said Gollum. Then, crawling to Frodo's feet, he groveled before him, whispering hoarsely. A shudder ran over him, as if the words shook his very bones with fear. "Smeagol will swear never, never to let him have it. Never. Smeagol will save it. But he must swear on the precious." "No, not on it," said Frodo, looking down at him with stern pity. "All you wish is to see it and touch it, if you can, though you know it would drive you mad. Not on it. Swear by it, if you will. For you know where it is. Yes, you know, Smeagol. It is before you." For a moment it appeared to Sam that his master had grown, and Gollum had shrunk. A tall, stern shadow, a mighty lord, who hid his brightness in grey cloud. And at his feet a little whining dog. Yet the two were in some way akin, and not alien. They could reach one another's minds. Gollum raised himself and began pawing at Frodo, fawning at his knees. "Down, down," said Frodo. "Now speak your promise." We promises, yes, I promise," said Gollum. "I will serve the master of the precious." "Good master, good Smeagol, Gollum, Gollum." Suddenly he began to weep and bite at his ankle again. "Take off the rope, Sam," said Frodo. Reluctantly Sam obeyed. At once Gollum got up and began prancing about, like a whipped cur whose master has patted it. From that moment a change, which lasted for some time, came over him. He spoke with less hissing and whining, and he spoke to his companions direct, not to his precious self. He would cringe and flinch if they stepped near him or made any sudden movement, and he avoided the touch of their elven cloaks. But he was friendly and, indeed, pitifully anxious to please. He would crackle and cackle with laughter and caper if any jest was made, or even if Frodo spoke kindly to him, and weep if Frodo rebuked him. Sam said little to him of any sort. He suspected him more deeply than ever, and if possible liked the new Gollum, the Smeagol, less than the old. "Well, Gollum, or whatever it is we're to call you," he said, "now for it. The moon's gone and the night's going. We'd better start." "Yes, yes," agreed Gollum, skipping about. "Off we go. There's only one way across between the north end and the south end. I found it, I did. Orcs don't use it, orcs don't know it. Orcs don't cross the marshes. They go round for miles and miles. Very lucky you came this way. Very lucky you found Smeagol, yes. Follow Smeagol. He took a few steps away and looked back inquiringly, like a dog inviting them for a walk. Wait a bit, Gollum, cried Sam. Not too far ahead now. I'm going to be at your tail, and I've got the rope handy. No, no, said Gollum. Smeagol promised. In the deep of night, under hard, clear stars, they set off. Gollum led them back northward for a while along the way they had come. Then he slanted to the right, away from the steep edge of the Imen Muil, down the broken stony slopes towards the vast fens below. They faded swiftly and softly into the darkness, over all the leagues of waste. Over all the leagues of waste before the gates of Mordor, there was a black silence. That is the end of chapter 1 of book 4 in the Two Towers. In a moment we will return with the passage of the marshes. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I need to do a slight adjustment here to my microphone, and I need a bit of this. This, the only thing that has really been helping me. Ginger, honey, herbs, the essence of an ancient Chinese secret. Now, let us continue now with the Two Towers, Book 4, Chapter 2, The Passage of the Marshes. Gollum moved quickly, with his head and neck thrust forward, often using his hands as well as his feet. Frodo and Sam were hard put to it to keep up with him, but he seemed no longer to have any thought of escaping. And if they fell behind, he would turn and wait for them. After a time, he brought them to the brink of the narrow gully that they had struck before, but they were now further from the hills. "Here it is," he cried. "There is a way down inside, yes. Now we follows it, out, away over there." He pointed south and east towards the marshes. The reek of them came to their nostrils, heavy and foul, even in the cool night air. Gollum cast up and down along the brink, and at length he called to them. "Here? We can get down here. Smeagol went this way once. I went this way, hiding from orcs." He led the way, and following him, the hobbits climbed down into the gloom. It was not difficult, for the rift was, at this point, only some 15 feet deep, and about a dozen across. There was running water at the bottom. It was, in fact, the bed of one of the many small rivers that trickled down from the hills to feed the stagnant pools and mires beyond. Gollum turned to the right, southward more or less, and splashed along with his feet in the shallow, stony stream. He seemed greatly delighted to feel the water, and chuckled to himself, sometimes even croaking in a sort of song. "The cold, hard lands, they bites our hands, they gnaws our feet. The rocks and stones are like old bones, all bare of meat. But stream and pool is wet and cool, so nice for feet. And now we wish—" "Ha ha! What does we wish?" he said, looking sidelong at the hobbits. "We'll tell you," he croaked. "He guessed it long ago. Baggins guessed it." A glint came into his eyes, and Sam, catching the gleam in the darkness, thought it far from pleasant. "Alive without breath, as cold as death, never thirsting, ever drinking, clad in mail, never clinking, drowns on dry land, thinks an island is a mountain, thinks a fountain is a puff of air, so sleek, so fair, what a joy to meet, we only wish to catch a fish, so juicy sweet." These words only made more pressing to Sam's mind a problem that had been troubling him from the moment when he understood that his master was going to adopt Gollum as a guide. The problem of food. It did not occur to him that his master might also have thought of it, but he supposed Gollum had. Indeed, how had Gollum kept himself in all his lonely wandering? Not too well, thought Sam. He looks fair famished. Not too dainty to try what hobbit tastes like, if there ain't no fish, I'll wager. Supposing as he could catch us napping. Well, he won't. Not Sam Gamgee, for one. They stumbled along in the dark, winding gully for a long time, or so it seemed, to the tired feet of Frodo and Sam. The gully turned eastward, and as they went on, it broadened and got gradually shallower. At last the sky above grew faint with the first grey of morning. Gollum had shown no signs of tiring, but now he looked up and halted. "Day is near," he whispered, as if day was something that might overhear him and spring on him. "Smeagol will stay here. I will stay here, and the yellow face won't see me." "We should be glad to see the sun," said Frodo, "but we will stay here. We are too tired to go any further at present." "You are not wise to be glad of the yellow face," said Gollum. "It shows you up. Nice, sensible hobbits stay with Smeagol. Orcs and nasty things are about. They can see a long way. Stay and hide with me." The three of them settled down to rest at the foot of the rocky wall of the gully. It was not much more than a tall man's height now, and at its base there were wide flat shelves of dry stone. The water ran in a channel on the other side. Frodo and Sam sat on one of the flats, resting their backs. Gollum paddled and scrabbled in the stream. "We must take a little food," said Frodo. "Are you hungry, Smeagol? We have very little to share, but we will spare you what we can." At the word hungry, a greenish light was kindled in Gollum's pale eyes, and they seemed to protrude further than ever from his thin, sickly face. For a moment, he relapsed into his old Gollum manner. "We are famished. Yes, famished we are, precious," he said. "What is it they eats? Have they nice fishes?" His tongue lolled out between his sharp yellow teeth, licking his colorless lips. "No, we have got no fish," said Frodo. "We have only got this." He held up a wafer of lembas. "And water, if the water here is fit to drink." "Yes, yes, nice water," said Gollum. Drink it, while we can. But what is it they've got, precious? Is it crunchable? Is it tasty?" Frodo broke off a portion of a wafer and handed it to him in its leaf wrapping. Gollum sniffed at the leaf and his face changed. A spasm of disgust came over it, and a hint of his old malice. "Smeagol smells it," he said. "Leaves out of the elf country. Gah! They stinks." He climbed in those trees, and he couldn't wash the smell off his hands. My nice hands. Dropping the leaf, he took a corner of the lembas and nibbled it. He spat, and a fit of coughing shook him. "Ach, no," he spluttered. "You try to choke poor Smeagol. Dust and ashes, he can't eat that. He must starve. But Smeagol doesn't mind. Nice hobbits. Smeagol has promised. He will starve. He can't eat hobbits' food. He will starve. Poor thin Smeagol." "I'm sorry," said Frodo, "but I can't help you, I'm afraid. I think this food would do you good, if you would try. But perhaps you can't even try. Not yet, anyway." The hobbits munched their lembas in silence. Sam thought that it tasted far better somehow than it had for a good while. Gollum's behavior had made him attend to its flavor again. But he did not feel comfortable. Gollum watched every morsel from hand to mouth, like an expectant dog by a diner's chair. Only when they had finished and were preparing to rest was he apparently convinced that they had no hidden dainties that he could share in. Then he went and sat by himself a few paces away and whimpered a little. "Look here," Sam whispered to Frodo, not too softly. He did not really care whether Gollum heard him or not. "We've got to get some sleep, but not both together with that hungry villain nigh, promise or no promise. Smeagol or Gollum, he won't change his habits in a hurry, I'll warrant. You go to sleep, Mr. Frodo, and I'll call you when I can't. Keep my eyelids propped up. Turn and about, same as before, while he's loose." "Perhaps you're right, Sam," said Frodo, speaking openly. "There is a change in him, but just what kind of a change and how deep, I'm not sure yet." Seriously, though, I don't think there is any need for fear at present. Still, watch if you wish. Give me about 2 hours, not more, then call me." So tired was Frodo that his head fell forward on his breast, and he slept almost as soon as he had spoken the words. Gollum seemed no longer to have any fears. He curled up and went quickly to sleep, quite unconcerned. Presently, his breath was hissing softly through his clenched teeth, but he lay still as stone. After a while, fearing that he would drop off himself if he sat listening to his two companions' breathing, Sam got up and gently prodded Gollum. His hands uncurled and twitched, but he made no other movement. Sam bent down and said, "Fish," close to his ear, but there was no response, not even a catch in Gollum's breathing. Sam scratched his head. Must really be asleep," he muttered. "And if I was like Gollum, he wouldn't wake up, never again." He restrained the thoughts of his sword and the rope that sprang to his mind, and went and sat down by his master. When he woke up, the sky above was dim, but not lighter, but darker than when they had breakfasted. Sam leapt to his feet, not least for his own feeling of vigor and hunger. He suddenly understood that he had slept the daylight away, 9 hours at least. Frodo was still fast asleep, lying now stretched on his side. Gollum was not to be seen. Various reproachful names for himself came to Sam's mind, drawn from the gaffer's large paternal word hoard. Then it also occurred to him that his master had been right. There had, for the present, been nothing to guard against. They were, at any rate, both alive and unthrottled. "Poor wretch," he said half remorsefully. "Now I wonder where he's got to." "Not far, not far," said a voice above him. He looked up and saw the shape of Gollum's large head and ears against the evening sky. "Here, what are you doing?" cried Sam, his suspicions coming back as soon as he saw that shape. "Smeagol is hungry," said Gollum. "Be back soon." "Come back now," shouted Sam. "Hi, come back!" But Gollum had vanished. Frodo woke at the sound of Sam's shout and sat up, rubbing his eyes. "Hullo," he said. "Anything wrong? What's the time?" "I dunno," said Sam. "After sundown, I reckon. And he's gone off. Says he's hungry." "Don't worry," said Frodo. "There's no help for it. But he'll come back, you'll see. The promise will hold yet a while, and he won't leave his precious anyway." Frodo made light of it when he learned that they had slept soundly for hours with Gollum, and a very hungry Gollum, too, loose beside them. "Don't think of any of your gaffer's hard names," he said. "You were worn out, and it has turned out well. We are now both rested. We have a hard road ahead, the worst road of all." "About the food," said Sam. "How long is it going to take us to do this job? And when it's done, what are we going to do then? This whey-bread keeps you on your legs in a wonderful way, though it doesn't satisfy the innards proper, as you might say. Not to my feeling, anyhow, meaning no disrespect to them as made it. But you have to eat some of it every day, and it doesn't grow. I reckon we've got enough to last, say, 3 weeks or so, and that with a tight belt and a light tooth, mind you. We've been a bit free with it so far." "I don't know how long we shall take to finish," said Frodo. "We were miserably delayed in the hills, but Samwise Gamgee, my dear hobbit, indeed, Sam, my dearest hobbit, my friend of friends, I do not think we need give thought to what comes after that. To do the job, as you put it, what hope is there that we ever shall? And if we do, who knows what will come of that? If the one goes into the fire, and we are at hand, I ask you, Sam, are we ever likely to need bread again? I think not. If we can nurse our limbs to bring us to Mount Doom, that is all we can do. More than I can, I begin to feel. More than I can, I begin to feel. Sam nodded silently. He took his master's hand and bent over it. He did not kiss it, though his tears fell on it. Then he turned away, drew his sleeve over his nose, and got up and stamped about, trying to whistle and saying between the efforts, "Where's that dratted creature?" It was actually not long before Gollum returned, but he came so quietly that they did not hear him till he stood before them. His fingers and face were soiled with black mud. He was still chewing and slavering. What he was chewing they did not ask or like to think. Worms or beetles or something slimy out of holes, thought Sam. Brr! The nasty creature, the poor wretch. Gollum said nothing to them until he had drunk deeply and washed himself in the stream. Then he came up to them, licking his lips. "Better now," he said. "Are we rested? Ready to go on? Nice hobbits. They sleep beautifully. Trust Smeagol now? Very, very good." The next stage of their journey was much the same as the last. As they went on, the gully became ever shallower and the slope of its floor more gradual. Its bottom was less stony and more earthy, and slowly its sides dwindled to mere banks. It began to wind and wander. That night drew to its end. But clouds were now over moon and star, and they knew of the coming day only by the slow spreading of the thin gray light. In a chill hour they came to the end of the watercourse. The banks became moss-grown mounds. Over the last shelf of rotting stone, the stream gurgled and fell down into a brown bog and was lost. Dry reeds hissed and rattled, though they could feel no wind. On either side and in front, wide fens and mires now lay, stretching away southward and eastward into the dim half-light. Mists curled and smoked from dark and noisome pools. The reek of them hung stifling in the still air. Far away, now almost due south, the mountain walls of Mordor loomed like a black bar of rugged clouds floating above a dangerous fog-bound sea. The hobbits were now wholly in the hands of Gollum. They did not know and could not guess in that misty light that they were, in fact, only just within the northern borders of the marshes, the main expanse of which lay south of them. They could, if they had known the lands, with some delay, have retraced their steps a little, and then turning east, have come round over hard roads to the bare plain of Dagorlad, the field of the ancient battle before the gates of Mordor. Not that there was a great hope in such a course. On that stony plain there was no cover, and across it ran the highways of the orcs and the soldiers of the enemy. Not even the cloaks of Lorien would have concealed them there. "How do we shape our course now, Smeagol?" asked Frodo. "Must we cross these evil-smelling fens?" No need at all," said Gollum. "Not if hobbits want to reach the Dark Mountains and go to see him very quick." Back a little and round a little, his skinny arms waved north and east. "And you can come on hard, cold roads to the very gates of his country. Lots of his people will be there looking out for guests, very pleased to take them straight to him. Oh, yes. His eye watches that way all the time. It caught Smeagol there long ago." Gollum shuddered. "But Smeagol has used his eyes since then. Yes, I've used eyes and feet and nose since then. I know other ways. More difficult, not so quick, but better, if we don't want him to see. Follow Smeagol. He can take you through the marshes, through the mists, nice thick mists. Follow Smeagol very carefully, and you may go a long way, quite a long way, before he catches you, yes, perhaps. It was already day, a windless and sullen morning, and the marsh reeks lay in heavy banks. No sun pierced the low, clouded sky, and Gollum seemed anxious to continue the journey at once. So after a brief rest, they set out again and were soon lost in a shadowy, silent world, cut off from all view of the lands about, either the hills that they had left or the mountains that they sought. They went slowly in single file, Gollum, Sam, Frodo. Frodo seemed the most weary of the three, and slow though they went, he often lagged. The hobbits soon found that what had looked like one vast fen was really an endless network of pools and soft mires and winding, half-strangled watercourses. Among these, a cunning eye and foot could thread a wandering path. Gollum certainly had that cunning, and needed all of it. His head on its long neck was ever turning this way and that, while he sniffed and muttered all the time to himself. Sometimes he would hold up his hand and halt them, while he went forward a little, crouching, testing the ground with fingers and toes, or merely listening with one ear, pressed to the earth. It was dreary and wearisome. Cold, clammy winter still held sway over this forsaken country. The only green was the scum of livid weed on the dark, greasy surfaces of the sullen waters. Dead grasses and rotting reeds loomed up in the mists like ragged shadows of long-forgotten summers. As the day wore on, the light increased a little, and the mists lifted, growing thinner and more transparent. Far above the rot and vapors of the world, the sun was riding high and golden now in a serene country, with floors of dazzling foam. But only a passing ghost of her could they see below, bleared, pale, giving no color and no warmth. But even at this faint reminder of her presence, Gollum scowled and flinched. He halted their journey, and they rested, squatting like little hunted animals in the borders of a great brown reed thicket. There was a deep silence, only scraped on its surfaces by the faint quiver of empty seed plumes and broken grass blades trembling in small air movements that they could not feel. "Not a bird?" said Sam mournfully. "No, no birds," said Gollum. "Nice birds." He licked his teeth. "No birds here. There are snakeses, wormses, things in the pools, lots of things, lots of nasty things. No birds," he ended sadly. Sam looked at him with distaste. So passed the third day of their journey with Gollum. Before the shadows of evening were long in happier lands, they went on again, always on and on, with only brief halts. These they made not so much for rest as to help Gollum, for now even he had to go forward with great care, and he was sometimes at a loss for a while. They had come to the very midst of the dead marshes, and it was dark. They walked slowly, stooping, keeping close in line, following attentively every move that Gollum made. The fens grew more wet, opening into wide, stagnant meres, among which it grew more and more difficult to find the firmer places where feet could tread without sinking into gurgling mud. The travelers were light, or maybe none of them would have ever found a way through. Presently, it grew altogether dark. The air itself seemed black and heavy to breathe. When lights appeared, Sam rubbed his eyes. He thought his head was going queer. He first saw one with the corner of his left eye a wisp of pale sheen that faded away. But others appeared soon after, some like dimly shining smoke, some like misty flames flickering slowly above unseen candles. Here and there they twisted like ghostly sheets unfurled by hidden hands. But neither of his companions spoke a word. At last Sam could bear it no longer. "What's all this, Gollum?" he said in a whisper. "These lights, they're all around us now. Are we trapped? Who are they?" Gollum looked up. A dark water was before him, and he was crawling on the ground, this way and that, doubtful of the way. "Yes, they are all around us," he whispered. "The tricksy lights. Candles of corpses, yes. Yes, don't you heed them. Don't look, don't follow them. Where's the master?" Sam looked back and found that Frodo had lagged again. He could not see him. He went some paces back into the darkness, not daring to move far or to call in more than a hoarse whisper. Suddenly he stumbled against Frodo, who was standing lost in thought, looking at the pale lights. His hands hung stiff at his sides. Water and slime were dripping from them. "Come, Mr. Frodo," said Sam. "Don't look at them. Gollum says we mustn't. Let's keep up with him and get out of this cursed place as quick as we can, if we can." "All right," said Frodo, as if returning out of a dream. "All right, I'm coming. Go on." Hurrying forward again, Sam tripped, catching his foot in some old root or tussock. He fell and came heavily on his hands, which sank deep into sticky ooze, so that his face was brought close to the surface of the dark mere. There was a faint hiss. A noisome smell went up. The lights flickered and danced and whirled and swirled. For a moment, the water below him looked like some window glazed with grimy glass, through which he was peering. Wrenching his hands out of the bog, he sprang back with a cry. "There are dead things, dead faces in the water," he said with horror. "Dead faces!" Gollum laughed. "The dead marshes, yes, yes, that is their name," he cackled. "You should not look in when the candles are lit." "Who are they? What are they?" asked Sam, shuddering, turning to Frodo, who was now behind him. "I don't know," said Frodo in a dream-like voice, "but I have seen them too, in the pools when the candles were lit. They lie in all the pools, pale faces, deep, deep under the dark water. I saw them, grim faces and evil, and noble faces and sad. Many faces proud and fair, and weeds in their silver hair, but all foul, all rotting, all dead. A fell light is in them." Frodo hid his eyes in his hands. "I know not who they are, but I thought I saw their men and elves and orcs beside them." "Yes, yes," said Gollum, "all dead, all rotten, elves and men and orcs. The dead marshes. There was a great battle long ago, yes. So they told him when Smeagol was young, when I was young before the precious came. It was a great battle. Tall men with long swords and terrible elves and orcs as shrieking. They fought on the plain for days and months at the black gates, but the marshes have grown since then, swallowed up the graves, always creeping, creeping." "But that is an age or more ago," said Sam. "The dead can't be really there. Is it some devilry hatched in the dark land?" "Who knows? Smeagol doesn't know." answered Gollum. "You cannot reach them. You cannot touch them. We tried once, yes, precious. I tried once, but you cannot reach them. Only shapes to see, perhaps, not to touch. No, precious. All dead." Sam looked darkly at him and shuddered again, thinking that he guessed why Smeagol had tried to touch them. "Well, I don't want to see them," he said. "Never again. Can't we get on and get away?" "Yes, yes," said Gollum, "but slowly, very carefully, or hobbits go down to join the dead ones and light little candles. Follow Smeagol. Don't look at the lights." He crawled away to the right, seeking for a path around the mere. They came close behind, stooping, often using their hands even as he did. 3 precious little Gollums in a row we shall be, if this goes on much longer, thought Sam. At last they came to the end of the black mere, and they crossed it perilously, crawling or hopping from one treacherous island tussock to another. Often they floundered, stepping or falling hands first into waters as noisome as a cesspool, till they were slimed and fouled almost up to their necks and stank in one another's nostrils. It was late in the night, when at length they reached firmer ground again. Gollum hissed and whispered to himself, but it appeared that he was pleased, in some mysterious way, by some blended sense of feel and smell and uncanny memory for shapes in the dark. He seemed to know just where he was again, and to be sure of his road ahead. "Now we go on, now on we go," he said. "Nice hobbits, brave hobbits, very weary, of course. So we are, my precious, all of us. But we must take Master away from the wicked lights. Yes, we must." With these words, he started off again, almost at a trot, down what appeared to be a long lane between high reeds, and they stumbled after him as quickly as they could. But in a little while he stopped suddenly and sniffed the air doubtfully, hissing as if he was troubled or displeased again. "What is it?" growled Sam, misinterpreting the signs. "What's the need to sniff? The stink nearly knocks me down with my nose held. You stink, and the master stinks. The whole place stinks." Yes, and Sam stinks," answered Gollum. "Poor Smeagol smells it, but good Smeagol bears it. Helps nice master, but that's no matter. The air's moving, change is coming. Smeagol wonders. He's not happy." He went on again, but his uneasiness grew, and every now and again he stood up to his full height, craning his neck eastward and southward. For some time the hobbits could not hear or feel what was troubling him. Then suddenly all 3 halted, stiffening and listening. To Frodo and Sam it seemed that they heard, far away, a long, wailing cry, high and thin and cruel. They shivered. At the same moment the stirring of the air became perceptible to them, and it grew very cold. As they stood straining their ears, they heard a noise like a wind coming in the distance. The misty lights wavered, dimmed, and went out. Gollum would not move. He stood shaking and gibbering to himself, until with a rush the wind came upon them, hissing and snarling over the marshes, and the night became less dark, light enough for them to see, or half see, shapeless drifts of fog, curling and twisting as it rolled over them and past them. Looking up, they saw the clouds breaking and shredding, and then high in the south the moon glimmered out, riding on the flying wrack. For a moment the sight of it gladdened the hearts of the hobbits, but Gollum cowered down, muttering curses on the white face. Then Frodo and Sam, staring at the sky, breathing deeply of the fresher air, saw it come. A small cloud flying from the accursed hills, a black shadow loosed from Mordor, a vast shape winged and ominous. It scudded across the moon, and with a deadly cry went away westward, outrunning the wind in its fell speed. They fell forward, groveling heedlessly on the cold earth. The shadow of horror wheeled and returned, passing lower now, right above them, sweeping the fen reek with its ghastly wings. And then it was gone, flying back to Mordor with the speed of the wrath of Sauron. And behind it, the wind roared away, leaving the dead marshes bare and bleak, the naked waste as far as eye could pierce, even to the distant menace of the mountains, was dappled with the fitful moonlight. Frodo and Sam got up, rubbing their eyes, like children wakened from an evil dream to find the familiar night still over the world. But Gollum lay on the ground as if he had been stunned. They roused him with difficulty, and for some time he would not lift his face, but knelt forward on his elbows, covering the back of his head with his large, flat hands. "Wraiths," he wailed. "Wraiths on wings! The precious is their master. They see everything, everything. Nothing can hide from them. Curse the white face. And they tell him everything. He sees, he knows. Ach, Gollum, Gollum, Gollum." It was not until the moon had sunk, westering far away beyond Tol Brandir, that he would get up or make a move. From that time on, Sam thought that he sensed a change in Gollum again. He was more fawning and would-be friendly, but Sam surprised some strange looks in his eyes at times, especially towards Frodo. And he went back more and more into his old manner of speaking. And Sam had another growing anxiety. Frodo seemed to be weary to the point of exhaustion. He said nothing, indeed he hardly spoke at all. And he did not complain, but he walked like one who carries a load, the weight of which is ever increasing, and he dragged along slower and slower, so that Sam had often to beg Gollum to wait and not to leave their master behind. In fact, with every step towards the gates of Mordor, Frodo felt the ring on his chain about his neck grow more burdensome. He was now beginning to feel it as an actual weight dragging him earthwards. But far more he was troubled by the eye, so he called it to himself. It was that, more than the drag of the ring, that made him cower and stoop as he walked. The eye, that horrible growing sense of a hostile will that strove with great power to pierce all shadows of cloud and earth and flesh, and to see you, to pin you under its deadly gaze, naked, immovable, so thin, so frail and thin, the veils were become that still warded it off. Frodo knew just where the present habitation and heart of that will now was, and certainly as a man can tell the direction of the sun with his eyes shut, as certainly as a man can tell the direction of the sun with his eyes shut. He was facing it, and its potency beat upon his brow. Gollum probably felt something of the same sort. But what went on in his wretched heart between the pressure of the eye and the lust of the ring that was so near? And his groveling promise made half in fear of cold iron, the hobbits did not guess. But Frodo gave no thought to it. Sam's mind was occupied mostly with his master, hardly noticing the dark cloud that had fallen on his own heart. He put Frodo in front of him now, and kept a watchful eye on every movement of his, supporting him if he stumbled, and trying to encourage him with clumsy words. When day came at last, the hobbits were surprised to see how much closer the ominous mountains had already drawn. The air was now clearer and colder, and though still far off, the walls of Mordor were no longer a cloudy menace on the edge of sight, but as grim black towers they frowned across a dismal waste. The marshes were at an end, dying away into dead peats and wide flats of dry, cracked mud. The land ahead rose in long, shallow slopes, barren and pitiless, towards the desert that lay at Sauron's gate. While the grey light lasted, they cowered under a black stone like worms, shrinking, lest the winged terror should pass and spy them with its cruel eyes. The remainder of that journey was a shadow of growing fear, in which memory could find nothing to rest upon. For 2 more nights, they struggled on through the weary, pathless land. The air, as it seemed to them, grew harsh and filled with a bitter reek that caught their breath and parched their mouths. At last, on the 5th morning, since they took the road with Gollum, they halted once more. Before them, dark in the dawn, the great mountains reached up to roofs of smoke and cloud. Out from their feet were flung huge buttresses and broken hills that were now, at the nearest, scarce a dozen miles away. Frodo looked around in horror. Dreadful as the dead marshes had been, and the arid moors of the no-man lands, more loathsome far was the country that the crawling day now slowly unveiled to his shrinking eyes. Even to the mirror of dead faces, some haggard phantom of green spring would come, but here neither spring nor summer would ever come again. Here nothing lived, not even the leprous growths that fed on rottenness. The gasping pools were choked with ash and crawling muds, sickly white and gray, as if the mountains had vomited the filth of their entrails upon the lands about. High mounds of crushed and powdered rock, great cones of earth, fire-blasted and poison-stained, stood like an obscene graveyard in endless rows, slowly revealed in the reluctant light. They had come to the desolation that lay before Mordor, the lasting monument to the dark labor of its slaves, that should endure when all their purposes were made void, a land defiled, diseased beyond all healing, unless the great sea should enter in and wash it with oblivion. "I feel sick," said Sam. Frodo did not speak. For a while they stood there, like men on the edge of a sleep where nightmare lurks, holding it off, though they know that they can only come to morning through the shadows. The light broadened and hardened. The gasping pits and poisonous mounds grew hideously clear. The sun was up, walking among clouds and long flags of smoke. But even the sunlight was defiled. The hobbits had no welcome for that light, unfriendly it seemed, revealing them in their helplessness, little squeaking ghosts that wandered among the ash heaps of the Dark Lord. Too weary to go further, they sought for some place where they could rest. For a while they sat without speaking under the shadow of a mound of slag, but foul fumes leaked out of it, catching their throats and choking them. Gollum was the first to get up. Spluttering and cursing, he rose, and without a word or a glance at the hobbits, He crawled away on all fours. Frodo and Sam crawled after him until they came to a wide, almost circular pit, high-banked upon the west. It was cold and dead, and a foul sump of oily, many-colored ooze lay at its bottom. Ugh. In this evil hole, they cowered, hoping in its shadow to escape the attention of the Eye. The day passed slowly. A great thirst troubled them, but they drank only a few drops from their bottles, last filled in the gully, which now, as they looked back in thought, seemed to them a place of peace and beauty. The hobbits took it in turn to watch. At first, tired as they were, neither of them could sleep at all. But as the sun far away was climbing down into slow-moving cloud, Sam dozed. It was Frodo's turn to be on guard. He lay back on the slope of the pit, but that did not ease the sense of burden that was on him. He looked up at the smoke-streaked sky and saw strange phantoms, dark riding shapes, and faces out of the past. He lost count of time, hovering between sleep and waking, until forgetfulness came over him. Suddenly, Sam woke up thinking that he heard his master calling. It was evening. Frodo could not have called, for he had fallen asleep and had slid down nearly to the bottom of the pit. Gollum was by him. For a moment, Sam thought that he was trying to rouse Frodo. Then he saw that it was not so. Gollum was talking to himself. Smeagol was holding a debate with some other thought that used the same voice, but made it squeak and hiss. A pale light and a green light alternated in his eyes as he spoke. "Smeagol promised," said the first thought. "Yes, yes, my precious," came the answer. "We promised to save our precious, not to let him have it. Never. But it's going to be him, yes, nearer every step. What's the hobbit going to do with it, we wonders? Yes, we wonders. Oh, I don't know. I can't help it. Master's got it. Smeagol promised to help the master." "Yes, yes, to help the master of the precious. But if we was master, then we could help ourselves, yes, and still keep promises." "But Smeagol said he would be very, very good. Nice hobbit. He took cruel rope off Smeagol's leg. He spoke nicely to me." "Very, very good, eh, my precious? Let's be good, good as fish, sweet one, but to ourselves. Not hurt the nice hobbit, of course, no, no." "But the precious holds the promise," the voice of Smeagol objected. "Then take it," said the other, "and let's hold it ourselves. Then we shall be master, Gollum. Make the other hobbit, the nasty, suspicious hobbit, make him crawl. Yes, hobbit. Yes, Gollum. But not the nice hobbit. Oh, no. Not if it doesn't please us. Still, he's a Baggins, my precious. Yes, a Baggins. A Baggins stole it. We found it. He found it and said nothing. Nothing. We hates Bagginses." "No, not this Baggins." "Yes, every Baggins. All peoples that keep the precious. We must have it. But he'll see. He'll know. He'll take it from us." "He sees. He knows. He heard us make silly promises. Against his orders, yes. Must take it. The wraiths are searching. Must take it. Not for him. No, sweet one. See, my precious, if we has it, then we can escape, even from him, eh? Perhaps he grows very strong, stronger than wraiths. Lord Smeagol, Gollum the Great, the Gollum. Eat fish every day, 3 times a day, fresh from the sea. Most precious Gollum. Must have it. We wants it, we wants it, we wants it." But there's 2 of them. They'll wake too quick and kill us." whined Smeagol in a last effort. "Not now. Not yet." "We want sit. But—" And here there came a long pause, as if a new thought had wakened. "Not yet, eh? Perhaps not. She might help. She might, yes." "No, no, not that way," wailed Smeagol. "Yes, we wants it. We wants it." Each time that second thought spoke, Gollum's long hand crept out slowly, pawing towards Frodo, and then was drawn back with a jerk as Smeagol spoke again. Finally, both arms, with long, flexed fingers, flexed and twitching, clawed towards his neck. Sam had lain still, fascinated by this debate, but watching every move that Gollum made from under his half-closed eyelids. To his simple mind, ordinary hunger, the desire to eat hobbits, had seemed the chief danger in Gollum. He realized now that it was not so. Gollum was feeling the terrible call of the ring. The Dark Lord was he, of course, but Sam wondered who she was. One of the nasty friends the little wretch had made in his wanderings, he supposed. Then he forgot the point, for things had plainly gone far enough, and were getting dangerous. A great heaviness was in all his limbs, but he roused himself with an effort and sat up. Something warned him to be careful and not to reveal that he had overheard the debate. He let out a loud sigh, gave a huge yawn. "What's the time?" he said sleepily. Gollum sent out a long hiss through his teeth. He stood up for a moment, tense and menacing, and then he collapsed, failing forward onto all fours and crawling up the bank of the pit. "Nice hobbits, nice Sam," he said. "Sleepy heads, yes, sleepy heads. Leave good Smeagol to watch, but it's evening. Dusk is creeping. Time to go." High time, thought Sam, and time we parted too. Yet it crossed his mind to wonder if indeed Gollum was not now as dangerous, turned loose, as kept with them. "Curse him! I wish he was choked," he muttered. He stumbled down the bank and roused his master. Strangely enough, Frodo felt refreshed. He had been dreaming. The dark shadow had passed, and a fair vision had visited him in this land of disease. Nothing remained of it in his memory, yet because of it he felt glad and lighter of heart. His burden was less heavy on him. Gollum welcomed him with dog-like delight. He chuckled and chattered, cracking his long fingers and pawing at Frodo's knees. Frodo smiled at him. "Come," he said, "you have guided us well and faithfully. This is the last stage. Bring us to the gate, and then I will not ask you to go further. Bring us to the gate, and you may go where you wish. Only not to our enemies." "To the gate, eh?" Gollum squeaked, seeming surprised and frightened. "To the gate, Master says? Yes, he says so, and good Smeagol does what he asks, oh yes, but when we gets closer, perhaps we'll see then. It won't look nice at all, oh no, oh no." "Go on with you," said Sam, "let's get it over." In the falling dusk, they scrambled out of the pit and slowly threaded their way through the dead land. They had not gone far before they felt once more the fear that had fallen on them when the winged shape swept over the marshes. They halted, cowering on the evil-smelling ground, but they saw nothing in the gloomy evening sky above. And soon the menace passed, high overhead, going maybe on some swift errand from Barad-dûr. After a while, Gollum got up and crept forward again, muttering and shaking. About an hour after midnight, the fear fell on them a third time, but it now seemed more remote, as if it were passing far above the clouds, rushing with terrible speed into the west. Gollum, however, was helpless with terror, and was convinced that they were being hunted, that their approach was known. 3 times he whimpered, 3 times as a threat. They feel us here. They feel the precious. The precious is their master. We cannot go any further this way. No, it's no use. It's no use. Pleading and kind words were no longer of any avail. It was not until Frodo commanded him angrily and laid a hand on his sword hilt that Gollum would get up again. Then, at last, he rose with a snarl and went before them like a beaten dog. So they stumbled on through the weary end of the night, and until the coming of another day of fear, they walked in silence with bowed heads, seeing nothing and hearing nothing but the wind hissing in their ears. That is the end of the Passage of the Marshes, and that concludes today's segment of the J.R.R. Tolkien Readathon. My wonderful friends, thank you again. Thank you again so much for joining us. I am your amiable reader, Clifford Broadway, wishing you good night and good luck. We will return again tomorrow with, let's see. We will return again tomorrow with The Black Gate is Closed. After that, Of Herbs and Stewed Rabbit. Potatoes. We'll get there soon enough. We'll see you all tomorrow, my friends. Thank you, and good night.